there, it's your girl Patrice Stokes, radio and podcast host, therapist, poet, photographer, and published author. Yep, that's me. I'm excited to welcome you to the all-new Therapy Thursdays with Therapy on the Mic, brought to you by Inspired on Purpose, where our mission is to inspire people to see themselves through a different lens, to discover healing and their God-given purpose using therapy and photography. Each week, we are here to guide you through the journey of developing gratitude, growth, and healing, no matter what season of life you're in. Join me live every Thursday for an interactive Q&A with me and our special guests. You might even win some awesome prizes. Miss the live show? No problem, I got you covered. Replayed on Spotify, and check out inspiring clips on all my social media platforms for even more exclusive content like behind-the-scenes interviews, courses, and resources. Consider our monthly membership. Sign up for my email list at www.inspiredonpurposeservices.com and follow me on all platforms as Inspired on Purpose to get in on special offers, discounts on therapy and photography services, and merch like my recently self-published 3-in-1 transformative self-care journal called Gratitude is Always in Season. Get more details for all of this in each episode description. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and stay tuned for this week's special guest. Together, let's get ready to be inspired on purpose. Hey, y'all. What's up? It's Patrice Stokes, your host of Therapy on the Mic, brought to you by Inspired on Purpose, where we are all about helping people develop gratitude, growth, and healing, and inspiring them to see themselves through a different lens, to find healing in their God-given purpose using therapy and photography. And you are coming to us on August 21st. It is a great, beautiful day. One, because we are above ground. Two, we have such a great lineup tonight that I'm really excited for all the things that we're going to talk about, but even more so our guest, who I had the opportunity to meet, excuse me, in July. And it went by, so no, in June. It was actually for the Idle Juneteenth celebration. I've been going to do spoken word there for the last now almost 4 years, I think going on 4 years. I've been asked to come and to do poetry for Juneteenth, and it has been a blessing. And this year was even better because of the guests that I had the opportunity to meet, who also did poetry at the Juneteenth event at the Idle Museum. And shout out to the Idle. Thank y'all so much for your continued support and sponsorship as well. But tonight we are going to have an amazing guest. Her name is Shonda Buchanan. And I'm going to share a little bit more about her tonight in just a bit. But before we have her come on, because she'll be on about 6:45. So if you're looking for her, she'll be on here. But we got some other things coming up that we want to share with you. And we're going to do a little bit of a different start for tonight. But just so that you know, we are here to talk about not just mental wellness, but healing and purpose-driven living. And so as your host, I'm not only a licensed therapist, I'm a poet, speaker, photographer, founder, and CEO of Inspired on Purpose, as well as the author of Gratitude is Always in Season. And just recently, I and another amazing woman, her name is Nicole Garrett. She is a nutritionist, a certified nutritionist. Together, we came to bring our powers together to start an amazing 6-week challenge called Building with Purpose, Mind, Body, and Soul, that focuses on nutrition, gut health, weight loss, weight management, as well as mental wellness and self-care. And so you're going to hear a little bit about that tonight. And I want to give Nicole a shout out for her business as well with Don't Stop Living Wellness. Together, it has been an amazing journey. Just in the 3 weeks that we have started the first challenge, we have some amazing participants that are in it that are not just here locally in Indianapolis, but actually live outside of the state. So this is a challenge, a 6-week challenge that you can be a part of, whether you are here in the state of Indiana or not, and you're out of state or even out of the country, because that is how beautiful this community is. And I want to give a shout out to everyone that is a part of the Building with Purpose 6-week challenge for Mind, Body, and Soul. I want to give a shout out to y'all. And I'm so proud of you. And so if you're listening to this now or on the replay, do know that you all inspire me with and on purpose every day, that I get to see how you all are growing and changing and transforming. And so if you're interested in wanting to get more information about Building with Purpose, Mind, Body, and Soul 6-week challenge, we will be having a new challenge coming up in September. And we have a free informational that's coming on next Wednesday, which is August the 27th at 8 p.m. And it is virtual, so you can be from anywhere if you're interested and you want more information about it. I will make sure to plug that in here tonight. You can also go to my website, which is www.inspiredonpurposeservices.com. And there is information on the page there about signing up for the free informational if you're interested. Just fill out the form and we will follow up with you and how to be able to get on the Zoom call for more information about that. But not only that, if you are someone who is on a journey of healing, finding gratitude in the season that you're in, and you are looking for something to help you in the area of self care, I'm excited. As I mentioned before, this is my first year of full year round that I have created my published book, Gratitude is Always in Season. It is a self care journal that is filled with my poetry, photography, and self reflection questions. And those who are actually in the Building with Purpose challenge, they actually get the book, which is a part of their participation. And so you can also get that as well on my website if you go to that and then click on shop. And then you'll find more information about how to purchase your book as well. So thanks to all of our sponsors. We'll be shouting them out throughout the night. If you would like to partner with us and to help create safe spaces like this for healing, you want to head to my website, again, which is www.inspiredonpurposeservices.com, and click on Donate Plus Sponsor tab. And there you will find information about how to become a sponsor. So tonight, as we focus on the month of August, and it's hard to believe that August is almost over, y'all. We are celebrating and bringing awareness to that August is the National Wellness Month. Did y'all know that? It is. It is the Wellness Month, which promotes self-care, stress management, and healthy routines. And we are observing also what's called Supporting Young Minds Month and National Grief Awareness Day, which actually is on August 30th. So it's coming up. These are all key to our conversations that we'll be having this month, which is why we are doing a series for the month of August called Building with Resilience. So each week we dig into different tools and lessons on this topic, and tonight is no different because our focus is going to be on tools for resilience, and that is what our special guest will be coming on tonight to talk to us about, and what the work that she does as a author, a poet, as well as a professor at a university at Western Michigan University. And so, like all these things, we have to think about tools for resilience that are also connected to our social support, self-care routines as well, which is huge, coping strategies. And so I posted something on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. And again, if you're not following, make sure to go to all those pages, including YouTube, and subscribe to Inspired on Purpose, or also like, share anything that you see on there that you like. But make sure to tap in with us on those places. But what I did do is I posted something on there just right before the show, because I've been having the last 3 weeks, I've really been reflecting a lot more because of being in this 6-week challenge. And I'm really grateful for it because it has been more of a blessing than I realized. And the reason why I say that is because it really has shown me how sometimes we can be so busy trying to do all these things, but what we don't realize is that not only our mental health, but our physical health, they're all connected, and everything in between, from our spiritual well-being to our emotional well-being. And when we don't take intentional time to focus on those things, it really can impact everything that we do. And so when we start feeling out of whack, we have to sometimes take a step back and we really have to think to ourselves, what is it that I need to do to put myself in a healthier space, not just for me, but all the people that are connected to me. And that's something that is really important. And that's one of the reasons why I love the topic for tonight, because I think each time that I have the show, I am always working through the topics that we end up talking about. And I believe that that is definitely the Lord humbling me, but also keeping me very self aware. That I'm not just talking about this stuff because it just sounds good, but I'm actually going through it myself. In this season of my life, I've definitely been learning a lot about myself, and then also too what self-care needs to look like for me, how I've neglected it, but also because I'm being intentional about it even now, not just teaching for the 6 week challenge, building with purpose, mind, body, and soul, but I'm actually taking on the different things that I need to learn as well for myself. So I'm like a teacher and a participant in the group, but it's really dope. And so is Nicole. And I think that's what makes this such an amazing community, because there's accountability. And that kind of leads to what I posted tonight on social media. So this is what it says. What I posted, I said, people ask, what is love? Sometimes love is the ability to hear sound advice, even when you don't want to hear it, because deep down, you know that the person giving it wants to see you win, ultimately win. That's not just love, that's accountability. And accountability is love's boundaries. It's how we build healthy community. So that's paraphrasing what I said. So I want to actually read you what I said. But in essence, that's what it meant, right? And I think that that's so important when we think about it. So here's what I actually said in the post. I said, people ask what is love? It's the ability to hear sound advice even when you don't want to hear it, but you know in your spirit it's not wrong, because the person giving it wants to see you ultimately win. We all need that. It's not just love, it's love's boundaries, called accountability. That's hashtag healthy community. So I ask people to, post or just comment on it. And if you are listening to us on the live stream, or if you are listening to us on the radio, shout out to Speak on It Radio. Just chime in. Go to make sure that you go to, so that way I see your comments. Go to YouTube, or you could go on my website and you could go to the podcast tab, and you can join in that way. But if you go to YouTube or on Facebook, because I also posted the live stream from YouTube on Facebook, so you can go on my Inspired Purpose page. But go to any of those places and just leave a chat, or just leave a comment on Facebook or Instagram, so then that way I can give you a shout out tonight if you want to share your thoughts on what that means to you. But when I think about that, that definitely, I thought about it, but it also made me think about where I am in my life. And sometimes what I realize, it's, accountability goes two ways, right? It's not just about somebody else being accountable to you, but it's you being accountable to that person or people. And I realized that in this season of my life, I've needed more accountability in ways that I didn't even realize, but I'm grateful for it, because it's taught me a lot of things. It's taught me the importance of growth, the importance of healing, the importance of knowing when I need to have a different perspective, and when I need to sometimes be quiet, and when I need to just learn. But as I think about this, how does all this connect to the theme of what we're talking about tonight for tools for resilience? Well, the first thing is, resilience isn't built alone, right? We have to understand that having people who hold us accountable strengthens our ability to bounce back when life gets tough. And there's a scripture that I think of in the Bible that talks about two is better than one. When one falls, the other can pick that person up. When it gets cold, they can have each other for each other's warmth. There's a lot of benefits to being together versus alone, and you can get more accomplished together than you can alone. So when you think about it, accountability strengthens our ability to bounce back from when life hits us and gets tough. The second thing is, accountability is a tool, y'all. It protects us from burnout. How often do we try to do things on our own because we don't like what somebody says, or we want to do it ourselves? And we realize when we get out there and we do it ourselves, we can do it ourselves, but we'll burn out in the process because we weren't meant to do things by ourselves. So it keeps us aligned with our values. It helps us to stay consistent with self care. And that's really big, y'all. Like self care, one of the things that I've been teaching in the Building with Purpose Challenge is self care isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. And when you really take the time to think about how important it is in your own personal life, then that's where you'll start seeing the difference in how you not only have the different perspectives that you have, but even how you respond to life's challenges. Because when you have more self care, like for me today, I went swimming. That is a part of my self care routine. It's a workout, but it's also therapeutic because being in the pool, it has a lot of benefits. And I'm not going to give too much away because I'll be sharing some stuff with you here probably in the next week or two about some stuff related to that. But I'm just saying that it really has, being in the water has really been a source of health, but also it's been a source of comfort for me because I can de stress in the pool. And it's something that my dad, I had him on my show last week, but it's something that my dad taught me years ago. And I'm so grateful that he taught me at a young age because it has taught me um, how to handle not only swimming, but also like just doing all the things that you do when it comes to like working out and being in water. It really does make a huge difference. So that's pretty awesome and why I love water. But speaking of that, boundaries equals love. You want to know what that means? Boundaries equals love. It means saying no or setting limits is not rejection, y'all. It's self respect. And when others honor those boundaries, they too show us love. So I think we all know that sometimes when we are going through life, and sometimes we allow people to do things, and part of that's because we don't know that it's a boundary. But when we realize and we understand and we establish that, hey, look, this is my limit, then we have to be able to communicate that in a way that doesn't push people away, but helps people to understand, like, I want you in my space, but I also want you to respect those boundaries and that there's a difference. Space doesn't mean that I don't want you in it. It just means that here's how far I want you to go with it in those boundaries. And if we don't know how to communicate that in a healthy way, if we're, arguing, or if we're quick to, get angry or shut people out, or, do whatever it is that we want to do, and we don't want to take in consideration what is this person saying, even if I don't like it. But if I hear what they're saying and I know their heart because I know that they ultimately want me to win, and I've seen their actions in my life and I know how they're trying to be, that person to cheer me on even when it's tough, or even when things are difficult, or even when I'm difficult, that they do want to see me win. I just have to be able to take my emotions to have a back seat, and I have to listen to what they have to say, and then allow my heart and my mind and everything in between to take that in before I respond or react. And that's what boundaries helps us do, because it teaches us that our emotions shouldn't take the front seat. Our emotions should not take the front seat. Um, our our minds, with wisdom, along with the knowledge that we're receiving, should lead our emotions, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's one of the things I think is really important when we think about how that is all connected to tools for resilience. So one of the things that I think is important in light of this is the connection to self-care. So tonight, as we talk about the tools for resilience, we have to also think about, what does that mean when it comes to self-care? Well, self-care means saying yes to what fuels you and no to what drains you. And also, we have to be honest about what fuels and what drains. And sometimes what we think what fuels us, it actually may not be good for us. And the way that we know if something is not good for us is, how does our attitude uh, respond to it? How does our bodies respond to it? How does our spirit How does our mind, right? What are the reactions that other people are getting from us in those things, right? And not to say that when something fuels us that everybody's going to be down for what fuels us, but we have to take all those things in consideration and then understand, like, is this good for me? And I think, again, that's one of the reasons why healthy community and accountability is so important, but also what drains you. So understanding that sometimes, our levels of energy and what we can give to people, whether you are introvert or you're extrovert, all of those things, take in consideration, but also too, it may not be your strength and it may be a weakness, but even if it is a weakness, then sometimes we also have to say, is this something that I need to actually grow in? Because one of the things we talked about in our previous episodes is that our minds create maps. And in those maps, which are called synapses, when we learn a new skill or develop a new tool, it allows us to create a new map in our mind, which is how we create healthy habits. And it's also how we break bad ones. So sometimes when we say, I can't do this, or I don't know how to do that, it's not that we can't or we don't know how to. We just have to use the tools at our disposal to help us do them. And the more that we do them, just like when we exercise, the more that we work out, like the more that I've been going to the pool, like I see the difference in my body. I notice how I feel more energy. And I also know how I can do more because I'm being consistent now of going to work out, and I make sure that's a part of my schedule, which means that no one can schedule a therapy session with me during that time. I don't take calls during that time. I don't do anything else, but I make sure to go to the gym, and I spend time to get in the pool, and also I do the steam room and the sauna, and all that stuff is a part of my self care. But I also make sure to put nourishment in my body before I go, so that it is the fuel that helps me to do those other things. And I make sure that I'm eating clean, which is another thing that Building with Purpose Challenge does, is it teaches you how to do both, because you can't just work out and then not eat good, or eat good and not work out. Like you got to have both if you want to have the maximum amount of energy and ability to utilize the body that we've been given to be stewards of. So I think that's also important. But also, when it comes to self care, practicing resilience often requires uncomfortable conversations, y'all. I think that this is one of those things that, like, I don't necessarily like having uncomfortable conversations, but I realize that when I avoid them, it only makes it worse. So when we know that we have something that we have to share with people, even if we know that it's not going to be favorable, they're not going to like it, but we also have to understand that having uncomfortable conversations actually opens the door for healing, for understanding, for you know, being able to understand one another. And even in that, we learn more stuff about ourselves and the other person when we're willing to face those uncomfortable conversations. I do something called Wellness Wednesday affirmations, and I usually post them on YouTube, and you can go and see some of the last 3 weeks that we've done. But this last one was focused on renew, was the focus, and we focus primarily on renewing our mind, body, and soul, but also how do we handle overcoming obstacles. That was the focus for the affirmation, for our Wellness Wednesday affirmation. And when I tell you, when I actually had to post it that whole day, I felt like I had obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And I just thought it was so funny that I would actually end up dealing with what I had to encourage other people about. And that's so funny how I believe God does us, because we can't teach something that we don't know anything about, and we can't make a difference in something that we haven't gone through ourselves. So everything I'm talking to y'all about, I've been through, or I'm going through, or I'm still making progress in, right? It's not about perfection, it's about progress. So when we're practicing resilience, it often requires uncomfortable conversations. So this is healthy communication, even when it stings. It's a part of self-care because it keeps relationships, check this, it keeps relationships authentic and safe. That is one of the things I love about that. when it comes to having uncomfortable conversations, which we're going to have that topic here in a little bit. But I wanted to drop a couple of statistics because, as y'all know, I love stats. So, the first one is according to the American Psychology Association, did you know people with strong social support are 50% more likely to practice healthy coping strategies during stress? Did you know that? I think that's pretty awesome. And research shows from the Journal of Health Communication that clear communication, not just communication, clear communication and accountability in relationship lowers stress levels and reduces depressive symptoms. So, in essence, when we don't have clear communication, when we don't have healthy accountability in our relationships, that means that our stress levels are going to go up and that there are higher chances of depressive symptoms in our life. So, in essence, it's not, again, self care isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. And a part of that is having healthy communication and clear communication. But the other thing, too, did you know that boundary setting is linked to higher self esteem and better overall well being, according to the Mental Health America? I think that's pretty awesome. So, what does all this mean when we talk about this before we go into our next topic? One of the things that I think is so important for us to remember is that when we talk about tools for resilience, which is tonight's topic, one of the strongest tools isn't just therapy and journaling, it's about community accountability. The people who love you enough to say the hard thing, the true thing, the thing that you may not want to hear but need to hear. That's love, y'all. That's resilience. That's self care in action. And that is something that I'm currently walking through, and I'm learning about myself and about others. And sometimes, we can hit our heads or bump our heads along the way as we're trying to navigate our own self-care and boundaries and healthy communication while the other person or people are doing the same in their own best way. But at some point you have to be able to say, okay, this is the line that I have to draw. And in that, you have to see, is that relationship strong enough to hold on to those boundaries and to respect them, especially if that person or if those people say that they love you. And being able to have healthy conversations enough to be able to say, like, I get it, I don't understand, or can we talk about that a little bit more without getting impatient or being unkind or wanting to shut down or any of those things that a lot of times that's unhealthy communication. That's not healthy boundaries. And we have to call those things out, because whether we're the ones doing it or whether the people around us are the ones doing it, we have to call it out so that that way we can deal with it and also make sure that we have the tools to help us to heal from it. So, this leads to what I want to talk about now, which is, why is tools for resilience so important? Well, one of the strongest tools isn't just about having, as I said, therapy or journaling. It's about healthy community and accountability. And so, as I think about this, one of the things that I want us to think about is, how do we develop a self care plan? Have you ever asked yourself that? I know that some of the things that I'm thinking about currently, like now, because of the Building with Purpose, Mind, Body, and Soul Challenge, 6-week challenge that I'm in, is, have you developed a self care plan? Do you know what self care tools that are in your arsenal, right, that are in your tool belt in order to help you to de-stress, to have healthy communication, to have healthy boundaries, to have healthy relationships, right? If you don't know what your self-care tools are, or things that you need to go to when you are having a tough day, or when you don't know how to communicate, or when you are kind of stuck with words and you're kind of unsure of how to, approach a situation that might be an uncomfortable conversation, this is why having a self-care plan is so important. And so that's why scheduling a wellness appointment with me can be a powerful next step. And so together, we'll develop a self care plan that supports healthy communication, helps you set healthy boundaries, and builds healthy community of accountability. And this is one of the reasons why When you have it, people who want to see you win will see you win. And of course, people who don't, then that kind of tells you where they are and it comes to your self care. But people who ultimately want to see you win, want to see you have healthy tools like self care in your life. And so, if this is you, if you're thinking, like, I think I need that, well, here's the best part. It's not only important, it's accessible. And I'm going to tell you how. Starting at just $25 for a 30-minute session, you can begin a healthy journey towards your personal and professional goals. And that's actually a big part of why we do what we do. In our personal and professional lives, self care should be a priority because you can't be at your best professionally if you aren't doing what's necessary for yourself personally. And what's happening to us personally will come out in what we're doing professionally if we don't have the tools to work and heal those things. And so you don't have to do this alone. So here's how you do it. To book, head over to my website, as I mentioned before, www.inspiredonpurposeservices.com. Click on the Contact Us tab, and there you will find a therapy referral form, and that you can fill out today. So you can also email me directly to inspiredonpurpose@gmail.com. Plus, when you book your wellness appointment, you'll unlock exclusive benefits tied to our upcoming Building with Purpose 6-week challenge. So trust me, you don't want to miss this opportunity. It is truly, truly going to be a great time. And I've already had clients that have seen the difference in creating a self care plan working with me, which has really been a blessing because I've seen the difference in just the first few sessions that we've done and how they're already taking into action the things that they know need to be like the top 3 areas that they need to focus on to help them not just only with handling or managing stress, but also having healthy communication and reaching those goals that sometimes get in the way of trying to get accomplished because we are struggling with procrastination, or we're dealing with unforgiveness, or we sometimes just don't even know where to start because we're overwhelmed with so many things on our plate. So, creating a self care plan could really be a benefit to you and to those that you know. So, if you know anybody that is interested, make sure to send them my way or send them to my website or even send me an email, and I will make sure to send you more information about that. So you could book that for yourself. And then also, like I said, you could book a therapy session if you would just like a traditional therapy session with me, which can be in person or virtual, the same with your wellness uh, appointment as well. As I mentioned before, and I'll mention it again, we have the 6-week challenge, Building with Purpose. And this is going to be a guided participant program that you will be able to have nutritional guidance. You'll have mental wellness guidance from myself, nutritional guidance from Nicole Garrett, as well as you'll have a community of people who are trying to walk down the same journey in their different ways, but they're all trying to become healthier and build with purpose, mind, body, and soul. So if you're interested in joining next time, we will have, like I said before, a free informational that is a virtual Zoom call that you can get on. And we'll share more about it. And it will be on Wednesday, August 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can hear from me as well as Nicole Garrett, who is a certified holistic nutrition coach with Don't Stop Living Wellness. So before we go to commercial, I want to leave you with these 2 questions. Before we go to commercial break and also with the song, I want to ask you these 2 questions before we come back, and we'll have uh, our moment mantra, our mantra moment, as well as bring on our special guest here. But I want to ask you 2 questions as we think about everything that we talked about so far. What currently supports your well-being, and what's one tool you wish you had? So think about that, and we'll talk about it on this commercial break. And make sure to invite somebody to the chat. Post something in the YouTube chat if you want to, or even on Facebook, and I'll make sure to check it out. But join the chat. Love for you to have this conversation with us and share this with someone who might be needing this right now in their season of life. So we'll be right back after this commercial break.
Fox is broadcasting live every Friday from 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. where we're hosting Fired Up Fridays. Yeah, that's right. Fired Up Fridays at the world famous Hot Boys, 4335 West 106th Street. That's 4335 West 106th Street, Carmel, Indiana. Get your tickets now. So if you're a rapper, singer, poet, or comedian, you need to heat up the stage at Fired Up Fridays starting August 8th. Let's go. Let's get fired up. Woo!
Speak on It Radio, 80s, 90s, now.
Wouldn't you know, those brown eyes see a side that nobody knows but you. I wanna go wherever your thoughts lead you, treasures you hold. Why don't you show the truth? 'Cause what I've seen so far is heaven sent, eloquent and decadent. Every drop you send my way, hold on, babe. I'd live this whole damn life all over again, just to need you once again. Every second, minute, hour still in place. 'Cause you've always been mine. Completely, but love wouldn't leave. Love wanted me to see, and what I've seen so far is heaven sent, eloquent and decadent. Every drop you send my way, hold on, babe. I'd live this whole damn life all over again, just to meet you once again. Every second, minute, hour still in place. 'Cause you've always been mine. You've always been
Ooh, ooh. I love that song. I love Alex Isley. For those that don't know, she is the niece of Ron Isley of the Isley Brothers. And I think I discovered her voice. Man, I don't even know how long ago that was, but I was like, her voice sounds like butter. Like if you listen to that song, I love that. That particular song, and I'm trying to think, I don't think that was a song that I first heard from her, but when I heard her voice, I was like, oh gosh, her voice like tells a story. And even as I think about that, you know, as we talk about tools for resilience, I want to know, like, how does music play a part in your tools for resilience? Sometimes I can listen to music and it can say the very things that sometimes my words can't communicate. Like I can hear a song and I listen to the lyrics and I'm like, oh, that's exactly how I feel. I didn't know, I couldn't even put it into words. But when I hear her voice, sometimes I just it paints a like a story for me whenever I hear her words. So Alex Isley, one of these days, I hope to interview you on my show, because it truly, your voice just, it blesses me. I feel healed every time I listen to you, so I appreciate what you do. So hopefully somebody want to tag Alex Isley so I can have her on my show one day. They say you got to put it out there what you want, so that's, there's a lot of people that I want to interview, which is why I'm so excited about who I'm going to interview tonight. But she's definitely one of those people because her voice inspires me in so many different ways, as well as just learning about her journey of being a singer and an artist, and even just her connection to the Isley brothers, and understanding and having her own voice, and not allowing her connection and relationship to the Isley brothers overshadow who she is as a person. So that was a little tangent, but shout out to Lamont for playing that on Speak On It Radio. Again, want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, again, to Speak On It Radio, who, if you are listening to us, we are not just on YouTube or on my website, inspiredonpurposeservices.com, or even on Facebook, but we're also on the radio station. Yes, Speak On It Radio is live. You can listen to it 24/7, not just on my show, but you can also listen to it if you go to thespeakerbox.com, and that's DASPAKABOXX.com. Hopefully I said that right. So you can go to my husband's website, and then of course you can listen to it from there. It runs 24/7, 7 days a week. You can listen to 80s, 90s, now music. And it's, like I said, he always has great hits that you can listen to, and you can definitely vibe to it whenever you listen. So I also want to give a shout out to our other sponsor, Herbal Intellect. Shout out to Paul Harris with Herbal Intellect. We are talking, of course, about all things that develop gratitude, growth, and healing. But even more so, we have to think about what is it that we're doing to help our bodies heal from the inside out. And so Paul with Herbal Intellect, he has amazing teas, and he's got other great holistic products that will help you on your healing and your growth journey as you continue to work on you. And that is another tool for resilience when it comes to self-care. So here is our moment mantra for the day before we go into our next segment. It is this: I draw strength from support and self-care. So what does that mean? Social connections helps regulate stress hormones. Did you know that? And routines protect mental health. So one of the things that I know for myself is when I do not have a schedule or a routine, my life is out of whack. Let alone my mood is totally jacked. And even though I rhymed, like that, I wasn't really trying to, but serious though, like it is really a thing when I do not have healthy routines. And we can have routines, but they're not necessarily healthy, and they don't support social connections or help us to regulate our stress hormones. So when we have healthy routines, it not only helps us to regulate our stress, but also it protects our mental health. So that's something that I think is really important. But also this goes into our next topic, which is uncomfortable conversations. So, and again, this is brought to you by our sponsors, Don't Stop Living Wellness and Be Well Therapeutic Massage Spa. They are all about health and wellness. And so you want to make sure to check them out. But as we think about this, I want you to think about exploring the discomfort in asking for support or feeling unworthy, core barriers to resilience. So we say it again: explore the discomfort in asking for support or feeling unworthy. These are core barriers to resilience. So again, this all ties back into having healthy community and accountability. When we're doing things by ourselves, y'all, it is not only detrimental to our mental health and our emotions, but even our goals. Because anytime we try to reason with ourselves and we have nobody to bounce those ideas off of, and sometimes it sounds great in our minds, but when we have to say it out loud to someone, and not to anybody, because you can't tell your stuff to everybody, but when you know that the people in your corner who are healthy accountability in a community want the best for you and want to see you win, and you share it with them, then yes, sometimes it hurts when people don't always agree. But when you start having to explain the reasonings for the things that you want to do certain things, if if there's like no connection at all in terms of like this doesn't make sense, or yeah, that sounds great, but here's a way that you could, tweak this or do that. That's why mentorship is also really important. And I want to give a shout out to Score. I had a business mentor. His name was Dan. He no longer does Score anymore because he's living his best life being retired. But he was such a great resource and mentor when it came to business. And that is one of the reasons why I say that even being an entrepreneur in my position, like entrepreneurship can be lonely. But I tell you, I have some of the best people in my corner who help me in entrepreneurship. I also want to give a shout out to the Urban League, the Indianapolis Urban League, who we just had an event this past Saturday. And what they did is they gave out $50 to people in the community. The first 400 people, they gave what they call IUL bucks. And so that allowed people in the community to spend with these business owners. And the business owners also got $50 so we could spend with each other. And that kept those dollars in our community. And it was such a beautiful ecosystem of watching community in action. And this is the thing that makes it such a difference when we have support. And that's not just personally, but even professionally. In that example, it all ties together with how we prioritize our self-care. So with that, I'm so excited to have my special guest on here. And her name, as she gets on here, her name is Shonda Buchanan. And for those of y'all that don't know, Miss Shonda, she's amazing. I'll just start there. So she's amazing. One of the things that I really love about Shonda, just in the time that I've gotten to know her, is just her ability to just express all of who she is through poetry. So those of y'all that know, I'm a poet as well. And so already she's just a beautiful soul. She's a beautiful woman. So, when I heard her poetry at the Idle Jorg, I was just like, wow. Right. And then, of course, she got locks. Like anytime I see people with locks, I just, part of me wants to go back to the lock journey, but I just can't do it no more. I got to be free. I can't do it. But I just love like just her style and aura and all that stuff. Right. But let me tell you a little bit about this amazing woman, Shonda Buchanan. She is an award-winning poet. She is a memoirist and an associate professor of English at the Western Michigan University. She is the author of Black Indian. I feel like I'm going to say it wrong, but am I saying it right? Is it equipos? Am I saying that wrong? I feel like I'm saying it wrong.
Equipoise.
Equipoise. There we go. Reading is fundamental. Thank you. And then also she is the author of Who's Afraid of Black Indians, and also of her recent book, The Lost Songs of Nina Simone. And man, I'm so excited because I got a chance to get one of her books. And she's, like I said, she's just amazing. There's so many more things that I want to say about her, but why does having Shonda come on here matter? Shonda works on identity, heritage, and healing that aligns perfectly with resilience through creative expression. And one of the things that, as I think about this, social support may reduce cortisol levels by 25% under stress. And so when I think about having self-care routines, and even what she does as a poet, as an author, as an artist, writing in it of itself is a way to help reduce our stress. 85% of people who daily have self-care routines report improved mood and focus. So y'all already know. I want to know from Miss Shonda about what she does and how she does the work that she does. So y'all welcome none other than Miss Shonda Buchanan. How are you, beautiful?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing wonderful. Yeah. How is Michigan these days? Is that where you are today?
Michigan. Oh yeah, I'm in Michigan today. It's funny, sometimes I have to stop and tell myself, you're in Michigan, or you're in upstate New York, or you're in Paris.
Right, right. So you're like, okay, today I am, which is a blessing.
Yeah.
That is a blessing to be able to say, I get to go somewhere else. Yeah.
It's a blessing But I have to also say that everywhere I go, no matter where I wake up in the world, when you talk about resilience, I have a routine that functions as my resilience. So I wake up with a prayer on my lips.
Mm.
Thank you, God, for this day, for my breath. I listen to a neurologist who is also a manifestation coach,
Mm.
Tara Stewart, I think, and she says the brain loves routine, but then also the brain creates pathways for you when you are consistent and when you have a hold that routine.
Mm.
I've been doing that for years. I've been saying, thank you, Creator, for allowing me to have mobility, to be able to have food over my, food on my table, a roof over my head, right?
Mm-hmm.
That practicing gratitude is how I wake up in the morning and live my day like that.
I love that. Uh-oh. Can you hear me? Okay, there we go.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I love that. I love that. And I love that you said, like you have a routine or a practice in the morning. Now, how does that routine or practice, no matter where you are in the world, how does that help you start your day?
Oh my gosh. Because I grew up in Kansas, Michigan, as a child without routine, as a child of a family who I like to call us, we were Wolverines, just loud and caustic and fighting. And, we were the children of my grandfather was an alcoholic, my father was an alcoholic, even though I didn't live with him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so much dysfunction in the family. And writing became that way that I created a sense of routine for myself. I use language to create an identity of exploration and reflection and
Mm-hmm.
gratitude in
Mm-hmm.
opposition to what I saw and what I felt as a child in terms of like constantly being in danger, but you have that language as a kid.
Mm. Wow.
So creating this kind of a routine for myself with ceremony, I do African and indigenous ceremony. I believe, as my father, my Baptist father said, baby, as long as you believe in something, it's all good. And I was like, yes, I believe in God. I'm a good person. All of that functions as my identity,
Yeah.
knowing that my ancestors are at my back, like 24. And then the other thing that I do is, because I'm a mom,
Mm.
my daughter's 34, my two grandsons are 6 and 3. She's married to an amazing man, Andre Lewis, who's the musical director for Dionne Warwick. I got to plug him.
Okay.
My daughter's name is Sophia, and I think and I hope that I taught her, here's a way that you give gratitude, or here is a way that you remain a good person, or that you try to remain a good person. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I've given her as much, um, as many lessons as I could, and then she just took them further with my grandsons.
Oh, wow.
Um, but yeah, she did. She really did, and I have to say, there really is that sense of because we are mothers and caregivers, and I'm so sorry. I am saying we as if I'm referring to women of color.
Mm.
We have that. There's something about
Check,
us,
check.
our orientation in America, where we come from, domestic workers and enslavement and, oppression, these kinds of things. So I have to do things to remind myself. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
stretch, do your yoga, be in your body, breathe, do your breath
Mm-hmm.
work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, work out. 'Cause you want to get some of these pounds down. Like you don't want to be 70 years old and unable to walk. So let's just keep your blood flowing, keep moving. Have your handful of blueberries. And the other thing that I do is I actually, and people don't realize this until they come to my house, I like to create affirmation signs for myself, and I put them all over my house. So if someone said something to me that I thought was profound or beautiful, like my auntie said many years ago, um, she said, Shonda, tell yourself that you are the owner of your natural and supernatural rights. You
Mm.
can, I think it was command your destiny. And I was like, that's profound, Aunt Irma. I'm going to put, so I typed that up and put that um, above my computer. And then the
Yeah.
other, I
I
created
created
this
this
one
one
when I
when I
moved here
here
to
to
Kalamazoo
Kalamazoo
last
last
year.
year.
And
And
because my
because my
book was
book was
coming
coming
out, The
out, The
Lost
Lost
Songs of
Songs of
Nina
Nina
Simone,
Simone,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was also like, okay, remind yourself, remind yourself. And so I wrote all the book awards, financial
Check.
gain and reward, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual,
Yeah.
psychological, communal, health, wealth, joy and happiness and love, prosperity and abundance. I mean, just, you keep that going. And
Yeah.
every time I go into a room and I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. And the last part of this is God knows I am a good person who deserves love, joy, peace, and happiness
Mm.
no matter what.
Yeah.
So we
I
have
love that.
to remind ourselves that we are not just caregivers or caretakers or someone's spouse or someone's mother or someone's um, daughter, right? We own our supernatural and natural rights, and we have that
Yeah.
right and the obligation to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you said that, like, we have a right and a responsibility, because that's what it sounds like I'm hearing you say, is that, we have
Yes.
to we have to take on uh our we have to take on our ability to see our voices, our bodies, all the things, like we're stewards.
Yeah.
And I think that that's so important,
Yes.
because you're definitely stewarding the gifts that you've been given. So, can you tell us a little bit about what led you to write? I know you shared a little bit, but if you can go into a little deeper, some of the books that I mentioned, like what led you or inspired you to write those books?
So my first book that I published, Who's Afraid of Black Indians, actually came from a altercation at a powwow.
Mm,
And I had been writing poems about my family and about being bi and triracial, having American Indian, the oral narrative of being African American and American Indian, and then also some white. Well, we didn't know who those people were, you know. So I grew up with that lore. I was dancing at a powwow, and it was a major celebration of a tribe who had
I'm sorry.
given what is the word that they call it back then? I think it was well, essentially like when the British came and they met this tribe, they gave them like, oh, here's some deer for friendship, and here's some,
Mm,
some beads and cloth and etc. Right? A tribute. I think it's called a tribute.
mm-hmm.
So this was the 400th year anniversary of the tribute, and then that particular tribe essentially said, "We don't want anyone dancing in the powwow circle that doesn't have their tribal enrollment card." And for me, I was like, "Oh, well, wait a minute! I've been dancing at this powwow for years. I know I'm visibly African American, but I
Mm-hmm.
also sing on these drums. I sing on Four Rivers drum. I'm, a women's traditional dancer. Like, okay." So people like the folks that I was with, we were like, okay, all right, let's just, respect it. And
Yeah.
then they called for intertribal. And when you call for intertribal, that means everyone can dance. It doesn't matter if you're indigenous or white or Asian or Samoan, it doesn't matter. So I said, okay, yeah, let me go dance now. And I was dancing with my friend who's Shawnee. She was Shawnee.
Mm-hmm.
And behind or in front of one of my brothers who's Seminole. They're full bloods, and I'm not full
Mm.
blood indigenous. But I could feel the folks staring at me, and I told my friend, I said, I think I'm about to get into a fight. So
Oh.
we leave the circle. It's a powwow circle, and we come out of the powwow circle, and the men, the vice chiefs, are like, "We told you not to dance," and da 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 da. And so I had this like tearful, in educational moment with them, and I said, "Wait a minute, we look the same, cousins. We both came from the Afro-Indigenous. We
Mm.
both, so I was just kind of having this discussion with them. And when I left afterwards, and I was like, girl, it's time to publish your book. And so that was the title, Who's Afraid of Black Indians? Seriously,
Wow.
because And I posted as a promo, I posted this on my Facebook page, and people were answering. They were like, the government is afraid of Black Indians. White
Mm.
people are afraid of Black Indians. Black people are afraid of Black Indians. And it was just
Wow.
like, because the thinking or the sentiment, it felt like, and even coming out of that powwow circle and having, the people who had their cards, the chiefs and vice chiefs who had their cards, confront me, it is, we are afraid of what we don't know.
Mm.
We are afraid of what we can't control.
Yeah.
And also we are afraid of what the higher society, or I'll just say the dominant society, will do to us if we don't follow their rules.
Mm.
So
Break that
so
down
when
for a
I
second.
wrote this, it was
Yeah.
like,
Go. Yeah. Break that down,
do you know
like
what I'm
what you just
saying?
said.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Just go ahead. Break that
Really,
part
no.
down, like for a second.
If we don't function within what society, the dominant society, gives people of color, you
Mm.
are out of bounds.
Mm.
Right? I mean, this, we see this across the country right now.
Yeah.
You are out of bounds. You are considered illegal. You are considered breaking the law, quote unquote,
Mm.
because you are not functioning within those boundaries and those lines that they have drawn for you.
Right. Even though
And I was
they are
having
not the
that
ones
moment
that
of,
created the actual space that we live in.
thank you. Thank you so much. And a part of writing and a part of my spiritual work is understanding that I am the child of Toni Morrison. Well, not the child. She's not my mama for real. But like Sonia
Right.
Sanchez,
Right.
I
Right.
am the daughter of people who get to create their own identities and who get to
Mari
share our
Evans.
struggles.
Mm-hmm.
Mari Evans. Oh my God, Tony K. Bambara. I mean,
Yes.
come on now. Oh gosh, Gloria Naylor. Women who wrote about the things, the nuances of a
Yeah.
Black woman's
Rest in
life.
peace, Nikki
And
Giovanni.
so Nikki Giovanni, Nikki Finney. I mean,
Yes.
so many writers I can name. And Joy Harjo. I mean, we can go everywhere. And so in my mind, there are many things that, and maybe I'm a real grandma right now, but in my mind, I'm like, no, baby, I'm not gonna do that, but I am gonna do this. I'm about to go radically rest over here because my mom, my grandmother, and my great grandmother were domestic workers. I know the
Mm.
houses that they worked in Kalamazoo. I'm gonna go radical rest over here for them, and I'm gonna write a
Mm.
poem
Oh,
about it
come
too.
on. I love
So
that. I'm
yeah,
radically
so that was my
rest.
first book. I
Wow.
wrote that. I pulled those poems together to really show and look at that cultural misidentity, the cultural mislabeling,
Mm.
and then how I had to create, accept, and recreate my identity in terms of being Black Indian, or what some of us call red Black, or Afro
Mm.
Indigenous, or
Mm.
right. So I had to create that sensibility. And someone asked me, it was something about, don't you feel, and this is a James Baldwin piece too, but someone literally asked me this question and they didn't know that James Baldwin had responded to it many years ago. But it was something like, don't you feel like sad that you come from two oppressed communities,
Ooh.
historically oppressed communities, the Indigenous and the Africans? And so I answered in a way that James Baldwin answered when someone asked him a question, which was, you were born Negro in America and you are a gay man. Don't you feel like, you know, don't you feel sad? And James Baldwin
Mm.
said, no, I hit the jackpot. And I'm like, no, I hit the jackpot. Are you kidding? Look at my history. Look at those Africans. Look at
Yes.
those civilizations they built.
Yes.
Not just
Yes.
Egypt. That's North Africa. Let's go to the Mali. Let's go to the
Come
Dogon.
on.
Let's go to Senegal. Let's look at the Wolof. Let's go to South Africa. Let's look at the Zulus.
Mm-hmm.
Hundreds of years, right? Let's look at
Mm-hmm.
where the Greek mythologies came from and the Greek knowledge. Come on now.
Which is
Socrates.
right. When
Socrates
you think
studied
about
us.
it, why
Go
do you
look at
think
the
they're trying to
history.
destroy our history? Why are you afraid of something
Okay.
if it's not true?
I'm like, no, 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 no. The traditions of indigenous people in this country 10,000 years before colonization. Come on now. I
Yeah.
hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
I hit the jackpot. And I embody that. And I know that. And I think that's probably why I'm single. Because I am so infused with the sensibility of I am privileged. I am
Yeah.
so privileged to come from these cultures and these narratives, and to the best of my ability within those rights that I have been granted to share those stories and tell those stories. Aho ashe amen.
That's man, that's so deep. And I love how you just even talked about how that connects to resilience, which is really my next question. How has writing served as a tool to build personal resilience for you?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So whenever I am feeling imbalanced, and this is since I was a child when I started writing at 9, I write. And it's like something is happening. I don't know what that thing is. You know, like the tickle in your brain, or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, I need to understand something. I need to figure it out. I need to understand if this is a lesson or if this is a boundary. Like, what is this? I go write. And then it strengthens my sense of it. For me, it strengthens the sense of um, okay, whatever that was, you understand it now. Now you can move beyond and you can go grow here.
Mm.
I am an imperfect being. I am a hopeless romantic, through and through. And but at the same time, one of the things that I started doing was writing love letters to myself, and it was, you're beautiful. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like, you're
Yes.
smart. People want to be around you, girl. It's like, no, 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 no. You light up the room whenever you
Yeah.
walk in. I was
Yeah.
like, yes. And I told my friend 5 years ago, a couple of us were all single at the same time. And I was singing a song, and she was like, "Girl, I love that song." And I was like, "So does I love that song too." And the person who I love loves that song too. She was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Me, myself, and I." I'm singing love songs to myself.
Yes.
Because who we can have a companion who can make us feel like that. That's great. We can have friends and family and
Mm-hmm.
parents who can make
Mm-hmm.
us feel that love.
Mm-hmm.
But as I say, I wake up and I practice gratitude. And if I
Mm-hmm.
even think about how my grandsons hug me, I
Mm.
feel it. I am impressed with their love and with that
Yeah.
joy, that innocence, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, and that's, I'm always looking for that in other people.
Yeah.
Um, I'm looking for the goodness. I'm looking for
Mm-hmm.
spirit. Sometimes people, I'm looking at you, but I'm looking around you.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I like this. I
Right,
like
right, right.
Patrice. Okay, but she got. I like her spirit. She's a good person. I
Oh,
like what she's saying, but I like what her light.
yeah. Yeah.
Her husband has a light too. I like his light.
Yeah. And I mean, but and that's so true. I mean, and again, I always feel like gratitude is the medicine that keeps uh complaining and depression away. Because a lot
And
of the things
humility.
that we're complaining or feeling depressed or anxious about are either things that either are not for us, or we're looking at it with a rose colored lens when we really understand what somebody else has or where we think we should be, but we're actually
Yes.
exactly where we need to be because that's a part of our journey.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
it's one of those things that, even as I was saying earlier, like I'm in a space in my life right now where I literally feel like every Therapy on the Mic podcast that we have, I'm literally going through those different lessons. It's not because I'm like, oh, this sounds like a great idea, but like, no, I just think that that's just the way that the Lord has set things up for me. Like literally yesterday was for our Building with Purpose 6-week challenge for mind, body, and soul. We do what's called a Wellness Wednesday affirmation, and I send them out to the people in the group every Wednesday morning, and I couldn't send it out. It was just like one obstacle after another. But the topic for the Wellness Wednesday affirmation was about renewing your mind, body, and soul and how to overcome obstacles. And I literally was dealing with obstacles all day. yesterday, but I sent it out. It was at the end of the day, but I sent it out. And I tell you, when I had to go back and I had to listen to the very thing that I created and put out to inspire other people, I was taking that in for myself to say, like, you know, when we have to face obstacles, the ability for us to face them allows us to exercise our courageous muscles. And that to me
Yes,
was something that I
it's true.
realized in the last month that really has been a huge piece of my growth is being able to face the things that sometimes I've either procrastinated, right? Or I somehow found
Yes.
other things to do, but that was actually the thing that I should have been doing in the first place. But I believe, God is gracious and, He allows things to happen where He's like, I'm not going to let you off the hook. It's going to be right here. When you're ready to deal with it,
Yes.
it will be waiting for you right here. It's not going to go nowhere. You can go be avoiding and doing all the other stuff, but the lesson's going to still be here.
Yes.
So when you're ready to, face it, I'll be here right with you.
Yes.
And
Yes. And
it's been a
humility.
blessing.
I think
Say it.
humility is also humility, the
Mm-hmm.
sense of just being humble in the riches and the wealth of friendship and the riches and the
Mm-hmm.
wealth of um, publishing, the riches and the wealth of having grandchildren you know what I mean? Like that sense of um, humbling yourself. This is something that I was taught on what we call the indigenous pieces on the red road,
Mm-hmm.
and it was, you're not higher than anyone else, no matter where you are, no matter how much money you have, where you live, you're not higher than anyone else. it's
That's
it's
good.
we are all the same,
That's good.
right? And so I think about that when sometimes when I when I meet people or I'm sitting at a table. When I worked at Hampton University, I was sitting at the president's table, President Harvey.
Mm.
Apparently, I worked like super hard, and people were watching me, and they were like, "Oh, get Shonda on this ad hoc committee." She, because the president knows she can like make things happen. And so he asked me a question one time, and I gave my straight answer, my straightforward answer, and everyone looked at me like, "Why did you answer the president like that?" I was like, "Because he's not higher than me.
Mm.
He is a man who has done a lot for this institution, but we are humans, and
Yeah.
we are the same." And so, and not to be arrogant or rude or anything like that, but it's like I'm meeting your human self. I'm meeting you who you are. So the whole piece about understanding um, the pedestal like issue, there are very few people that I am afraid to shake their hands and to be in a room or have a conversation with them. And I think Toni Morrison was
Mm.
one.
Wow.
One,
Man, to have
maybe
met
was she the
her.
only? Is she the only? Oh my gosh, yeah. I met Lucille Clifton. Lucille Clifton, a writer, another writer, came to my home. One of my friends brought her to my home. She wanted to see what young black writers were writing in LA in the
Mm.
late 1990s. And but yeah, I think Toni Morrison is the only one where I was like, Toni, Miss Morrison, Dr.
Oh,
Morrison, you're
wow.
because Toni Morrison changed the lexicon of what black women were and could do in this country. Like with
Yes.
10 books, shifted.
Oof.
She shifted it. She researched it. And she edited many, many books that did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, when she passed at 78,
Wow.
it was I can't say it was a travesty, but it was also it's in divine order. I mean, maybe that was the sense for the rest of us to stand up and to say, now it's your turn.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's like passing on the baton, which, even hearing you talk about, like the other book, The Lost Songs of Nina Simone, which I want to ask you about that. But, when I think about Nina Simone's voice and how many people, like, Lamont, he would say this, but, he does a lot of what's called salute the samples. And a lot of the music, because he's like a music buff, but a lot of the music of today is sampled from, like, many, many, many moons ago. But even thinking about how Nina Simone has had so many songs that I didn't even realize for a long time that were sampled by a lot of people, and but they all tell a deep message. And it's so interesting how people have sampled and in some ways interpreted her music, but it's also what's kept it alive, and it's allowed her story to stay alive, and it's one that we need right now. So like, can you talk a little bit
Yeah,
about
yeah.
like what led you to write that?
It's timeless. Oh my gosh. The Lost Songs of Nina Simone, my collection of poetry, came out in May of this year. I launched it in Paris, and it was
Yeah.
incredible to be able to launch a book in Paris in a place that Nina Simone lived from 1981 to 1983, but it
Uh-huh.
was also a place that she would go to escape America's racism. And
Wow.
and so it was just amazing to be able to do that. But to tell the Nina Simone story, I had to go deep. I had to go back to her autobiography, which is it's called "I Put a Spell on You,"
Mm.
and then I pulled all like her fans' books. She's got a fan club in England, a fan club in Paris. I mean, she's fan clubs all over the world,
I
and I
bet.
have their books. And I didn't watch any of her movies
Mm.
until after I was finished with that third draft of the book, I believe. And then I watched What Happened, Miss Simone,
Mm.
because I didn't want to be influenced by anyone else's vision of
Yeah.
her. But
Yeah.
it really was, how do I tell the story in poems? It's almost a biodoc of of her ancestors first. So the ancestors, where they came from, her Afro-Indigenous and Irish ancestors in Tryon, North Carolina. How did they come together? And then it
Mm.
was telling the story of Nina as she's coming through the birth canal,
Mm.
from one womb into the open. And it was, I have a line, it's a whole poem that's really ethereal, and it's her asking, or angels or someone, I don't even haven't even named the voice, asking her questions, and she's asking them questions back, like, why now? And it's like, it's your
Mm.
time. And then I go into
Mm.
her being a child who was impoverished, influenced by her musical father. Daddy Divine is what they called him.
Mm.
And really going to her house in Tryon, North Carolina, and just like touring the house before anyone else, Venus Williams and anyone else got,
Wow.
knew about this. I was in that house soaking up the stories of Nina
I
Simone.
bet.
And we need her now.
Yeah.
We
Oof.
need her resistance. We need her
Mm-hmm.
certainty.
Mm-hmm.
There are even moments when we have to have her sense of um, her later sense of self-preservation. I think
Yeah.
earlier when she was performing and she was just putting out her music, and she was just this beautiful, beautiful, dark, like black unicorn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dark
Because
skinned
you
woman
didn't
with
see that very often
pretty
back then, and she was tall too, right?
tall,
Yes.
statuesque, and her voice, and so I say in one of my poems that she had this like a James Baldwin affected accent. It was, yes, I am going to. I've got all of my witnesses here, and so it was like a bit of like South with some patois French. It was so interesting to listen to her with her affected accent or affectation, we call
Mm-hmm.
it, but there is a sense of later, it was like she bolted out of America in 1978 because the record labels had taken advantage of her. Her second husband, Andy Stroud, had taken advantage of her.
Mm.
She was struggling with alcoholism and so many other things. And she was like, to self preservation, she had to change her physical like existence. And
Mm.
she, of course, went to Liberia, and in Liberia, she lost her mind. she was she was like, I'm free. I'm free, dancing on tabletops. I mean, really, but imagine since she was a child prodigy,
Yeah.
playing gospel in church, being trained as a classical pianist by Ms. Mazzy, going to Pittsburgh and applying to Curtis Institute and getting rejected from her first school that she wanted to go to. She
Mm.
later went to Juilliard, but Curtis Institute was a premier music school at that time. And so she had all of this bottled up in her.
Yeah.
And then the civil rights movement,
Whew.
I mean, being groomed as the voice of the civil rights movement. and then losing people, losing Malcolm, losing Lorraine Hansberry. I mean, so it was like all of these moments that she was creating touchstones for us with her music,
Yeah.
young, gifted, and black, right? Oh my gosh, I put a spell on you, wild as the wind, a strange fruit,
Strange fruit. That's the one
you
I was
know,
thinking of. I was like, I can't think. I couldn't think. But just to even
every
know like that's still happening. That
yes,
it blows my mind when I think about some of the things that I hear on the news now. Like this is 2025. Like I that was years ago, when she created
yes,
that song. But to know
yes,
that that
yes,
song stirred up so much controversy, but it was one of those things where, like earlier, we talked about having those uncomfortable conversations that leads to healing.
yes,
That was one of those conversations that, I mean, when you hear the song itself and how she's even describing a tree and how she's describing a person on the tree. Like, yeah, these are the
black body
conversations.
swinging
Come on. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go
on
right on
the
ahead.
tree.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Come
No,
on.
go
Come on.
ahead.
Come on. No, give me some more. Give me some more. Give me some
No,
more.
as you're talking, I hear her voice and I hear
Mm,
the song. And
mm.
then I can think about three things that have happened within the last 3 years where
Wow.
that is continually happening. And it might not be a treat, but it is there. There is the harm of black body,
Mm, mm.
and in her music, she was saying and singing, "We deserve the right to be.
Yes.
We deserve the right to create. We deserve the right to exist and be free."
Yes.
I mean, just
And the
I
fact that
should
we even
create the
have to
church
articulate
song.
that.
Yes,
Why
but
do
we
we
have
have
to
to say
articulate
that we
that.
deserve something that is humanly ours? Like, no one
Yep,
should have capital over that. But yet, we live in a
exactly.
society that some folks think that somehow they have the right that we don't. And
Yes, exactly.
regardless of who are in certain positions in this country, you
Yes,
know at the
yes,
end of the day, one thing is true that all of us will have to deal with, and that is that we have an end date. And so we can sit here
yes,
and try to act as though we have power over other folks. But one thing's for sure is that one day, that end date, which no one knows, but it could be a lot sooner than some folks think, because again, you talked about humility, like understanding that humility doesn't mean that we are less than, but it also means
hmm
that we know our limits, right? And we're all
hmm
limited. There's nobody on this planet that doesn't have a limit. We've seen plenty of limits, in our leadership over the last few, times that
plenty of
we've been
restraint.
dealing with this. And so, but what it should point to is that we need to be more kind and more gracious and more,
Yeah.
you know, um, even as we're talking about tools for resilience, like being able to have healthy communication, instead of expecting people to just do something or to read people's minds, to say, like, hey, look, I don't
Yes.
understand and I would like to learn because I don't know, versus I know everything and I know, how to do everything and I know nothing. Right. And then pretend
Yes.
everybody, it's like the pink elephant, like everybody knows that you don't know what you're doing. Everybody knows. Okay. So why are you trying to fool yourself? Versus, you could probably get a lot more accomplished. Isn't the saying true that you could catch you could catch more bees with honey than with vinegar?
Yes.
And some people just they want to drench themselves in vinegar. Just, I don't understand.
Yes. 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 And yes. I mean, girl, that's funny. I mean, but it goes back to it goes back to, for me, it comes back to the writing and how I think with someone, people ask me all the time when I'm giving talks or giving like something from, if I'm giving a presentation from Black Indian or
Mm-hmm.
trying to teach Nina Simone as a civil rights icon. And someone inevitably says, "How are you dealing with this?"
Mm.
And I say, "This is nothing new. like what's happening right now in our society is something that we have been dealing with since 1619.
Long
For
time.
the Africans who came to this continent at Jamestown and those who came before Jamestown, even
Hmm.
if they were free, they were still dealing with the impediment of other or being othered. And for those
Yes.
indigenous folks who were set upon and um, Columbus sailed the ocean blue 1492, I think it was,
Mm.
and hit
But
the
he ain't
wrong
discovered
coast.
nothing.
Didn't discover a thing because it was already here. But the kinds of things that for hundreds of years, this isn't new. We have had to be malleable. We
Yes.
have had to
Yes.
we had to recreate language in order to fight the oppressor so that they don't
Hmm.
know what we're saying and we get to say what we want to say, and then
Yeah.
they get hip and start putting it in their like commercials.
Well, it's like even funny too. Like something I learned some years ago was about like what there's now what is it called, like the Hair Act or the Crown Act, where
Yes.
people of color, particularly Black people,
Hmm.
could wear their hair in the styles that they want, but also understanding like back in times where Africans were enslaved, they braided their hair in patterns because they were pathways to freedom. And
Yep.
like when I thought
Yes.
about like who thinks like that, who thinks like that, like only I, genius, just genius. And I'm thinking like I wrote a poem some years back called Black Excellence, and what I had to do was I talked about the importance of not just knowing like our Malcolm X's and our Harriet Tubmans and our Mount Martin Luther Kings, but our Mansa Musas and Queen Nefertari and all these different individuals that I end up
Hatshepsut.
doing my own research
Yeah.
on and realize like, wow, if only we knew more about them,
Yes.
not just the ones
Yes.
that they try to put in our classroom books, which a lot of that now they trying to take that away. But the fact is that if we really truly understood and knew our history, would we take some of the things that we're taking now? Would we respond
Yes.
in the
Yes.
ways that we're, if you think of people like Nat Turner, you know what I'm saying, like you know what I'm saying, like uh would we really respond, like understanding what resistance really means, but also
Yes.
understanding what resilience means, and
Yes.
even how
Yes.
that of itself is like rest is resilience, or
Yes.
it is also
Yes.
resistance. And I think that's something in
Yes.
this
A
time in our
nap.
country,
A
like,
nap is resistance.
yeah, like realizing like, what, I'm not about to go out there and march and do all this stuff. I told y'all, like, we already had these conversations. What am I going out there and march for?
Yes.
What am I
Yes.
going to do that for? So I'm going to rest
Yes.
because I've already been
Hmm.
stressed, and me going out there
Hmm.
to march for something that clearly at this point it's not a matter of if this is right or wrong. We already know the answer. It's, are y'all going to do what's right?
Yes. 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 It's interesting. Prior George Floyd, there was something happened. Oh gosh, I can't remember. Something happened. It had to have been 2016, and I can't remember the actual. I mean, we can Google it. It was probably not Michael Garner. It was one in St. Louis, I think it was, a gentleman, a black man who lost his life.
Mm,
One of my colleagues at Hampton, she was a mom of two black boys, and she was so impacted by this that she snapped.
mm.
And there was a one of her colleagues said something to one of her sons, and she attacked him. She went off. She was like, "Don't you talk to my son like that? That's violence. And I'm not going to take it." You know what I'm like? That is a feeling and a thing that a lot of us could have. Like at a moment, it was like, "Oh, we're gonna snap. Oh, this is too much. We can't bear it." You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And we manage it. We manage it because we understand the consequences of something like that happening. We do.
Yeah.
When someone says, "How do you bear it? How do you deal with it?" I'm thinking, well, I know a couple of people who deal with things differently. I know people who anesthetize themselves. I know people like me. I am a writer, but I'm also a snacker. I'm an
Mm.
emotional overeater. I have a poem talking about emotional overeating. But I
Okay.
mean, but also rest resting is another way of dealing with it. It's like, nope, not right now. Because in the 1800s, when my ancestors were slaves and they tried to rest, they would get beat for trying to rest. And they would keep them. This is in Frederick Douglass's. Yes, in Frederick Douglass's, the autobiography of Frederick Douglass, which is an amazing book. I teach African American Lit at Western Michigan University,
Oh,
and
wow.
he talks about enslavement in such a like a straight up bald way, of how when he was trying to rest or he was trying to do something, the one of the ways they kept us indoctrinated and enslaved mentally was just to keep us on our toes. You wake up at dawn, you go to bed at when it falls. You know, anything can happen in the middle of the night. Like trauma, 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 trauma. Be prepared for danger,
Yes.
danger, for your kids being sold, your husband being, so much that we had to embody. It's in our DNA.
Mm-hmm.
But now
Mm-hmm.
we have shifted where we get to say, you know what? I get to rest. I have a
Yep.
home. I bought this home. There could be people around me who don't agree with me or who don't want me to be in this neighborhood, but I have a sanctuary that I've
Yes.
created to the
Yes.
best of my ability. I'm going to rest here. Um, so I'm a board member for the Kalamazoo Poetry Festival, and our next festival in
Okay.
2026 is called Beyond Resilience.
Oh,
And
okay.
one of my colleagues, we were
Fun.
exactly, we were talking about like what to name the festival, and one of my colleagues, Lauren, said, she said, you know what, I've been thinking about that word resilience, and I don't want it to be disempowered, and I don't want it, I
Mm.
want it to actually mean something. So were kicking it around. I was like, do you mean beyond resilience? And she was like, yes. So what's beyond resilience for us? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm. I
beyond
love that.
resilience is
I
like
love that.
nirvana. So
Yes.
that's what our year for 2026, dealing with poetry and having a poetry festival, all of our workshops and presentations will be looking at that beyond resilience,
Ooh.
for our communities.
I
Yeah.
love that. And I mean, and that's such an important aspect to talk about, but to even like be practical about like what does that mean to have beyond resilience, because with where we are in our society right now, we have to have resilience. Like it's not even a choice. But it's about how we approach resilience. Like are we doing it um with kicking our feet, or are we doing it with a sense of courage and a sense of urgency, right? Like if we don't, what's on the other side of that if we don't have resilience? And that was
Yes.
one of the things that I shared earlier, because when I think about how important self-care is and where all of those things impact just our day to day. Sometimes we don't even realize it because we're just so on the go, so busy. But there was something that I was looking at recently, and it said that oxytocin from connections lowers blood pressure and anxiety. So the importance of
Yeah.
having healthy community actually helps us to decompress. And when we are by
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, that those levels of oxytocin raise, and it causes us to have more anxiety. So in essence, it's funny because I would hear people say after COVID that people were so anxious about being around folks. But if you catch them, depending on where and in what environment, it wasn't about being around anybody. It was certain types of people, because even the most introverted introvert still needs community. And it's the ability of being seen, of being heard, of being loved. Like even when you talked about your grandkids, like the types of, the touch, like
Touch.
all the love languages, physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, gifts, service, like those five love languages, no matter how introverted or extroverted you are, we need community. And we can't, we can gift ourselves that kind of love, but it doesn't compare to when you can get it, you can receive it, right? Especially if you're not necessarily looking for it, but someone does it, and they do it unprompted, right? That does something for our
Yes.
psyche, our emotions, our everything. So I mean, what do you say about that?
Yeah.
And especially with, you're a professor at a university, so how how does that impact not just the work that you do, but also the people that you serve?
I like to go into every classroom creating community and creating a safe space for learning and a safe
Mm-hmm.
space for an exchange of ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and a respectful space for an exchange of ideas. I think over the years, I have learned this, the the ability to make everybody feel included in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's why I'm a natural DEI like presenter, um, because even if someone came from an impoverished background and they're sitting next to someone who's third and fourth generation, WMU, Western Michigan University student, there is the sense of what do you bring to the table?
Mm.
Let's put all our bread out. Let's put our
Yeah.
like everything on the table. What do we bring? And then let's look at what's similar and
Mm-hmm.
what commonalities do we have,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what that you can share with this student, and what does this student know that you can share with this student to
I
make us
love that.
all richer. And it's
Yes.
interesting, I think, so that's my pedagogy. Like, my pedagogy is, so I say it is interdisciplinary, cultural exchange, diversity, landscape. I've got those like gigantic words,
Mm-hmm.
intersectionality, like, those kinds of things for my pedagogy, the way in which I teach. And then the implementation, when I walk into a classroom and people see
Mm-hmm.
how unpressed I am. And it's like,
Mm.
we're here to learn, right? And it's like,
You
oh,
said
thank you for
unpressed. Come
coming.
on. I love that word.
Unpressed. Unpressed. And I'm like, thank you for being in this classroom. What are we going to teach each other? What are we going to learn
Mm.
today from each other? And I think, again, they appreciate the fact that I have a lot of learning. I've got 3 degrees under my belt. Technically,
Come
I'm a
on.
doctor. Yes, I'm
Come
Dr.
on.
Buchanan, but still, you have something to teach me. What is that? What do you have
Right.
to teach me?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and that's my natural curiosity as a writer as
Mm-hmm.
well. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm always hearing stories. I can hear and pull people's stories out in 5 minutes. No,
Mm.
less than 5 minutes. I'm like,
Come on. Come on.
but I stay quiet because some people need to discover their own stories. Um, some people don't want you to tell them their stories. Some people
Mm.
know what they need to write, and it's too hard for them to get to it. So what I
Yeah.
say is, let's come back to that.
I
And
like
then they
that.
start thinking about it. And when we come back to it, they're like, I kind of want to share something a little bit more, a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
deeper.
Mm-hmm.
But I take this into my classroom. I take it to the board, into my board meetings. I'm on the Kalamazoo Arts Council board at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I take it into, any meetings, and I'm thinking about that sense of equality, equanimity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How is it that, what we know as educators, and how can we imbue that next generation with
Mm-hmm.
what they need? The thing
Yeah.
I'm thinking about now, I'm thinking about legacy.
Oh, come
So
on with that. Come
I
on.
am. I'm thinking about, so I've taught thousands of students in my 23, 4+ years of university level teaching, and that's not even
Wow.
including community organizations, international teaching. Yeah, I've taught thousands of students. It was interesting. I was teaching in Malaysia at it was a conference for the embassy. I'm an English language specialist with the Department of State.
Mm.
And so there were 4,000 educators in this room, Malay and Indian and Chinese and Japanese. And I'm like, wow, this is the largest audience I've ever had. But I'm doing the same thing. I'm talking about heritage and landscape.
Mm-hmm.
But I have that sense of, what do you want to leave, for the next generation? And who are the students that you're mentoring? And so now I am in the process of grabbing 5 students, 5 younger, not just students on my campus, but 5 young folks that I can start to say, do you want to learn some of the things that I know? Like, do you want to do ceremony? Do you want to read these books? How can I, help you as a hearth mother? Like, how can I help you get to the place that you need to get to as an artist, as a creative?
Mm.
Like, what is it that you need? And
I
how
love
can you
that.
pass this on to the next? You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it's so those when I interview people, that's one of the questions that I ask. Who are you mentoring?
Mm.
From Congress people all the way to, to anyone else. I'm like, who are you mentoring? That's my, because we have to continue a legacy that we built and created. John Lewis, right? We in
Mm-hmm.
some way, shape, or form, you've got to get into that good trouble and show other people how to get into
Yes.
that good trouble.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I love that you said John Lewis because, even as I think about there's he doesn't have a biopic. Is that what I'm thinking of? A biography?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
a biopic
But
movie.
yeah, but Shirley Chisholm does.
Selma. Yes. Yes.
And I didn't even know
Yes.
some of that stuff about her, and but to realize like some people would look at her and it's like, well, she didn't win, so why did she do it? And it's like, it's the fact that she did it because that led the pathway. Like we talk about representation matters. Yeah, the fact that we had a great African American president of the United States, people thought we would never and ever have one. But it's the fact that we had one, and that the folks who are in leadership now are trying to do little petty things like remove his picture from the White House
Yep.
as though it didn't happen. Like you can't you no matter how many books and things you try to remove, like you can never unwrite history. Like that's history. Like no one is going to forget that. But yet it's still up to us. And it's not even just within the Black community. It's up to those who are allies, those in other cultures, to make sure that we tell the stories we pass like we're oracles, because that's how we know the history that we have today. And the reason why, even in universities, even in high schools, even in younger in younger levels of education, why youth can learn more about what true history is, because we're not looking and waiting for the books to tell us. We have the households, we have the aunties, we have the grandparents, we've got the local mentors and leaders who are going to tell the stories to ensure that, like you said, legacy, that continues. And that's a part of resilience, because in order for
Yes.
this next generation to understand that, hey, you have a voice, you do have a say, what you says matters. And no matter what the powers that be out here that will try to silence platforms to keep us from being able to speak truth to power, we will continue to speak truth to power, and they will never stop that, because we are a resilient people, we are a resilient community. And the more that we do it together, meaning when we can band together, even as you talked about your heritage, your culture, like you have a plethora of ethnicities within you, and that, I'm sure, gives you the strength to do the work that you do, that allows people, whether they look like you or not, to be able to understand the importance of culture and ethnicity and diversity and all the things that, unfortunately, there are just folks that are just going to be ignorant to it, but that won't stop the show from continuing. And I love that about the work that you do.
Yes. You know what? It's um, so there's a couple of things that they can't take away from us is um, our blood, what's in our DNA,
Hmm.
what we have faced, and
Kendrick
also
Lamar
what
said
we
it best.
remember. Right? Memory, memory is stronger than this moment. The memory at and Toni Morrison called rememory. I
Mm,
like to call it sometimes non-memory is the memory of other people where you weren't there, but you're going to pass on that memory. Like
that's
it's
right.
not your like your first person, but you're going to pass that on.
That's
Memory
right.
is so much stronger sometimes than what they attempt to do to us. So they could take down Barack Obama's picture, and we're going to say, "Remember, Barack Obama's picture was on that wall," and it
Hmm.
came right back after he left.
Yeah, right after you left.
Memory is key in making sure that we are passing down our traditions and our legacies and our
Yes.
cultural nuances and our songs. And I mean, and the other thing that I say is blood calls blood.
Mm,
So when someone says to me, "How did you get involved with African and indigenous traditions?" And I say, "Well, I showed up. I knew that they were doing something, or I heard the drums, and I
mm-hmm.
was called." Right, they say that right when you in church, when you're in church, and they're like, "Who
Yes.
feels called to come up to who's got the spirit?" Right.
Like, first want to give
So
honor to
so
God.
many Yes, right? And so many times there have been moments, literally, I'm in Belize with an ex, and we're just walking down the street in Belize. We hear drums, and we're like, wait a minute, he's Afro Indigenous, I'm Afro Indigenous. So we walk to this where the drums are. He also was a drummer. And we see all these um, of color folks. We didn't know that at the time they were Garifuna, which is the Africans who came to the Belize and Central America, that area. So
Okay.
suddenly we're involved in a dugu, which is one of their ancestral ceremonies, and they're like, "Come on in here." We're like, "Oh, okay." We start dancing. We're honoring their ancestors because they are ours as well, and we're like,
Yeah.
ah, blood calls blood, and it has
Yeah.
happened like that so many times for
I
me. So I'm
love that.
open for that wealth and that richness and the memory of it. Right, I'm open for that sense of what is it that I need to learn right now. And
Yeah.
my ancestors are like, turn left, turn right, go straight, be quiet, hold your space, hold your peace right here.
Yeah.
Show up at the Idle Jordan Museum. Go talk to that sister. You know what I'm saying? Blood calls blood.
Yeah.
That I believe in that. I believe in that.
I love that. I love that. And I mean, and it is important for us to remember, like, even in our, in our tools for resilience, is that we also have to look back at our history, because nothing is new under the sun. That's what scripture says. And to me, when I think about what that looks like in today's society, we pull from the history of our ancestors and the strength and the courage and the resilience that they had when they faced opposition, when they dealt with, racism, when they, had to have uncomfortable conversations that they didn't necessarily want, or when they had, all the odds stacked against them, and yet, they were still able to
Land
fight,
loss.
you know. Say it again.
Yes. When they dealt with land loss or being
Yes.
pushed off of their out of their communities, Tulsa, Redwood.
Yes.
I mean, there's so
Yes.
many moments when we could think about that kind of it's almost double speak, but yes, that sense of we have had to come back time and time and time and time again, and we will continue to do that.
And we will, and I think, even just what you shared, I mean, it definitely, and this kind of goes into the next question that I have for you. But when we're looking at ancestry and self-care, because again, one of the things that I'm learning even now, even more so from the nutritional standpoint, and shout out again to Nicole Garrett, who is a holistic nutritionist, and her story, without me going into detail because I want her to tell her story. But her story is that she was dealing with a lot of health issues, and she went to doctors, and they couldn't really figure out what was going on, so they tried to medicate and do all these things, but nothing was really helping her. And and I've had other clients who have had different health issues, and particularly within the Black community. And one of the things that she had said was, is that a lot of times when we're looking at the medicines that are put out here in our country, that sometimes don't even connect with what's happening within our bodies, because they weren't built for us. They weren't
Yeah.
treated with us in mind. And so when we're talking about, what do we need to have mental health and self care, we can't look to sometimes the modern medicines because they were never
Yeah.
intended with us in mind. And so, as I think about this, many of your works weave in the themes of identity and heritage. So, how have personal rituals or cultural connections, or even like holistic, uh, care for your health, help support your self care and your strength?
Oh my gosh. Meditation and prayer. Those are my first morning. That's my medicine. My first morning shot to my psyche is like, thank you, Creator, for allowing me to wake up, and then let me meditate and still myself and say, this is going to be an amazing day. Thank you for this day. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my first medicine, and then it
Yeah.
becomes, let me do something for my body. Let's do the 30 minutes. Let's do 15 minutes for my body. Let's just do that. in terms of the holistic piece, um, I was a vegetarian at 16.
Mm.
Um, and there's a longer story to that, but I went back to eating fish and chicken from what 19 to 20, and then I stopped again, and I have not had beef or
Mm.
pork or chicken or fish or anything. So I'm vegetarian. I do eat cheese. I don't eat eggs.
Okay.
So that's another way of me of just kind of maintaining this sense of, okay, I'm in control of that in terms of what I eat. I'm in control of that piece of my health. So I know I'm
Mm-hmm.
not weighed down by this pork or this beef.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have my own like other things, that I deal with. So okay, this is so I'm paying attention to that. But also I'm holistic, and I know, oh, you have a cough. Okay, go get your mullein. Get your
Mm.
so your fenugreek, your echinacea. This is what my daughter was raised on.
Yeah, because I'm
Fenugreek,
definitely gonna have to
echinacea,
take some.
cardiarco, red clover. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
because I'm gonna
so
have to
I
take some.
like
I'm like,
this
you
is
feeling
my
congested now, and I'm like, no. But I know what I need to take, and I'm gonna take it.
my
I'm gonna
whole
be
like
taking Paul's herbal intellect tea here in a second, because like I
yeah.
feel the congestion
I
because
don't
the
know
weather's
Paul's herbal
changing.
intellect, but good for you.
Yes, herbal
No,
teas.
so when I was in Kenya in January, so what did I spend my money on? Tea.
Mm-hmm.
We went to
Mm-hmm.
a tea farm, a third generation Kenyan owned tea farm. And I was
Mm.
like, give me everything on your list, sis, because I want to support. So I brought home like bags and bags of black tea, hibiscus
Yes.
tea, red tea, white tea. And I was like, I supported. And then I also have my fix, green
Yes.
tea.
Yes.
But like, so I believe in that the holistic medicine for ourselves. And sometimes we can forget. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's like, oh my God, something's going on. I don't know what it is. Let me call the doctor. Okay, let me do some ibuprofen. Or maybe it's something beyond your control, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you
Mm-hmm.
do need something. And it's like, ah. But along with that ibuprofen, go back to our homeopathic ways. Google homeopathic ways
Mm-hmm.
and look at your ailment. Like, what is wrong? Why does my ankle hurt?
Mm-hmm.
Ligaments, stress, inflammation. Okay, so I did do this ibuprofen, but let me also go and do this turmeric.
Mm-hmm.
so,
Mm-hmm.
so let's balance that out, because we do have that the ability to take Western medicine. It is not always good for us.
Mm-hmm.
Tylenol makes your stomach bleed. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
But then also it's like, let me balance it out. So I'm always paying attention to that. So I have considered myself an herbalist. I am also I'm a doula for the people I love. So I help my
Mm.
daughter bring in her, like, my two grandsons into this world.
Oh wow.
Some of my best friends, I've helped them bring their babies into the world. So I'm a doula for myself. I don't take money for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm I think that's a part of the way that I live too. It's
Mm.
okay, what is the best way to bring balance into my life
Mm.
and not harm myself while this is happening and not harm anyone else? And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let's grow your food. Let's try to
Mm.
grow your, like, and I just started growing, you know what I'm saying?
Come
Grow
on.
let's
Talk
like
about it.
tomatoes. They take a lot of water, just water. Grow your tomatoes, your basil, your oregano.
Yes.
Let's just grow that. You like spinach, now go get
Mm-hmm.
yourself a spinach plant. Grow your spinach. You like blueberries, get a blueberry. Get some. So it's like it's a relearning lesson, because we are not taught that unless
Yeah.
you grow up on a farm.
Right.
And if you grow
Right.
up in a city, oh no, everybody's going to the store.
Mm-hmm.
We have to relearn how to holistically take care of ourselves, and
Yeah.
how to show our children holistically how to take care of themselves. And then that ripples out to the community.
Mm-hmm.
It ripples out into our profession. It ripples out
Mm-hmm.
into what we do. How can we live in a balanced way? And that ultimately is the key. That's
Yeah.
happiness. How can you
Yes.
live a peaceful, harmonious, prosperous life in balance with
Yeah.
creator, with nature, with other people? That's the ultimate key to happiness, I think.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, when it's that balanced life, right? And that's one of the things that, even as I was saying earlier, that, I do a consultation, a 30-minute wellness consultation to help people develop a self-care plan. Because, when I did it for myself, and I and I did this assessment, and I remember, and I did this in the Building with Purpose challenge with the folks who are doing the 6-week challenge now. And some people, when they finished the assessment, they was like, I feel like you just ripped off a band-aid. And I was like, hey, look, I just asked the questions. I didn't answer them. Those are things that
In my
you
workshops, it's like that in my workshops too. They're like, wait a minute, I didn't want to cry in this workshop. I'm like, I'm sorry, you healing, you're just healing.
and that's exactly what it is. And I think sometimes we don't realize how deeply we need self-care until we're asked the right questions. And I think that's one of the things that, with us doing therapy on the mic, the reason why I started this in the first place was to be able to have, healthy education about what therapy is and is not, and especially for communities of color, because so often, when I talk to people and they know and they find out that I'm, licensed therapist, they're like, wait, are you gonna see my soul? I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm just talking to you. Like, and then sometimes people just wanna like just I call it emotionally dumping on me. They're just telling me their whole life story. I'm like, I never asked the question, and then sometimes without people even knowing, because they're just drawn, because I have a compassionate, way about myself, where I'm a very caring person. But what I've also had to learn, and this is another piece to what we were talking about with resilience, is that you got to have healthy boundaries. Because if I'm constantly, emotionally caring all the time, like where I can't shut that off, where I can't be like, okay, if you would like to schedule a therapy session with me, we can continue this conversation. I'll be more than happy to do that. But at this point, it's best that we not continue, and to know that that's not being mean. Like, that's literally setting a healthy boundary to say, like, hey, look, this is not the time for it. There is a place, and you can actually book a session for that to have that. But to also know, like, that saying no, I said this earlier, that no is not a sense of it's not a place of rejection, but really it's a show of care, because it says that I care about you
Yes.
as much as I want you to care about me. And we have to acknowledge,
Yes.
like, that we each have limits, and in order to enjoy this continued relationship, we have to respect those limits. Otherwise, we may not have a relationship to continue to respect it.
Exactly. Exactly. That makes so much sense. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I love that you do that.
So,
No, we have to. I mean, I realized that a little, gosh, a little over 20 years ago, when I was in Los Angeles. I lived in LA. I moved to LA in 1987, lived like
mm,
18 years there. But I realized that I had become a helper to
mm,
some folks. And then I was like, how is it that suddenly, like, these three dudes see me and they're like, can you help me build my business? And I'm like, so I had to talk to myself, and it was like, you
mm,
need to you need to charge. Like, this is consultation, or this is work, this is administrative work, this is,
mhm.
and you know how to do it. So once I started saying, how much, what's your budget? And then it was like, oh, it was like crickets. And then I was like,
Crickets.
okay, crickets. So the people who are serious about me helping them write their books, me helping them write a business plan, me helping them ghost writing something or consulting, they're like,
Hmm.
oh, what's your fee? And they pay the fee, and
Hmm.
they understand that. So, or
Hmm.
let me edit your book. And then there are others who just don't understand yet. It's not even that I am asking you for money. It is, I'm asking you to compensate me for my time and my
Yes.
knowledge and my
Yes.
wisdom in terms of how, and my I'll say learning as
Hmm.
opposed to schooling, but my
Yep.
learning and
Yep.
how I can help you with that. And so that's
Yeah.
all you're asking for. Makes sense.
Hmm. Hmm. No, I mean, and it does. And it's like, I think, there's studies that show that, African American women in particular are the most educated in terms of like degrees, but the least paid. And when we
Yes.
look at the
How much do we
structures,
get paid on the dollar? Are we paid
mm,
a third
at third,
on the dollar? So
I
I
think
can't
so.
remember, but I've seen
Yep.
statistics. Yep, I've seen them.
Yeah, and I went to this conference a year. I was maybe like 2 years ago, and it was this workshop where they were looking at. It was, if I can remember the title, something like African American women and femmes and understanding your value, or something like that. And basically, it
Yes,
was
yes.
saying, how many in the educational system, because, I used to be a high school counselor. And so one of the things that it they asked in the workshop, it was like a bingo sheet, and you had to check off any of the things that you've experienced. And I mean, not, I mean, you can almost hear like everybody in the room almost in tears. Like I was literally being emotional as I was checking off like all of these things that were happening to me in the space that I was in, because there was a lot of like racial trauma, microaggressions, even sometimes other things where, from people that look like me, and just all these different things where, when I looked at it, and one of the things that they broke down was, is that when you have a Western culture that says, this is right, or perfection is excellence, or this is what we're striving for, and nobody even does that, including the people who tell you that's the way that you're supposed to do things, that you then start
Yes.
undermining your own value. And then, like the thing is true, like that when you've been oppressed and you've not been healed, you can oppress other people. And that is
Yes.
something that has to be addressed, especially in educational systems, because we are educating young minds. But if we are in spaces where we're supposed to be leaders and we're not healed, and the traumas that we've been dealing with have caused triggers that then become a part of our habits and become a part of our behaviors, then when we start dealing with, parents or kids, or whatever, different students, then how are we really leaving a legacy that's telling them this is how to be a student for life? Because in essence, that's, I
Exactly.
mean, we're on this earth to learn, to develop, to grow, to help others. But in the process, if we're in these educational spaces but we're constantly in trauma, then how are we going to help other people learn how to live without trauma if we haven't dealt with our own?
Yeah.
What are your
You know,
thoughts
it's
about that?
interesting. Many years ago, no, I'm sorry.
No, I was just asking you, what are your thoughts about that?
So many years ago, I was in a car accident, and a friend of mine said, "You need to get acupuncture." And I was like, "Why do I need to get acupuncture?" So finally, we were at some event, and there was a black woman who was an acupuncturist, and she was like, "I'm giving free sessions." I said, "Okay." Friends of mine said I need to get acupuncture because of this accident. She says, "Okay." She said, "Tell me about it. I'm gonna do some needlework if that's okay." She stuck me here and here and somewhere here, and then on my left side of my foot. I
Mm,
think she might have done something over here.
mm-hmm,
It was like the accident happened again, and then it closed.
mm,
It was a wound. It was like a psychic wound that had
mm,
not been healed.
mm,
And that's what I think you're speaking a little bit to, is that sense that there's a psychic wound that if you are a child of trauma,
mm-hmm,
if you are a racist,
mm-hmm.
if you are
Call it out.
misogynist, if
Mm-hmm,
you are a black man in America that who has dealt with being pulled over by the police 1,000 million times,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
So if you are a black woman in America and you have the history and the legacy of your family and men and children being taken from you, those are wounds
mm-hmm,
that have not been healed
mm-hmm.
until we address them and until
That's
we
right.
write about them and until
Yeah.
we literally, it's like touching the bruise. And
Mm-hmm.
I do that with my writing, and it's sometimes, oh my God, it's like, why am I writing about this? This is
Mm.
too personal.
Yeah.
What are you doing? And then it's like, oh, because this is a prayer for your family.
Yeah.
Like you're not just trying to heal yourself, you're trying to heal 5 and 6 and 7 generations.
Yes,
And then it's
ma'am.
like, oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You know what I'm saying? So it's
Mm-hmm.
those are the kinds of things that if you aren't aware that you are carrying this psychic wound,
Mm-hmm.
or someone who passed and you're carrying that energy,
Mm-hmm.
or someone who's depressed in your family, and or abused, how we're carrying that, how can you help other people?
Yeah.
And I I believe that writing is one of the ways that you could do it, engaging in your whatever your culture is, those
Mm-hmm.
traditional elements of culture. So
Mm-hmm.
for example, I sing as well. I know so many beautiful indigenous songs that are connected to creator and nature. I've danced West African dance, so I'm engaging in healing practices all the time. It's community, bringing people around me, family around me to heal, to touch, right? So it's interesting that who there was a woman who wrote the book post traumatic slavery syndrome. I forget her name,
Oh, I know
but
the
she
book.
said, what is her name? But
Dang, I can't think.
she essentially she was like, every black person in America needs therapy. She said, we need free therapy. And I
Yes.
try to get to, whenever I talk to someone, if I'm like on a plantation and I'm like, my ancestors worked this
Mm-hmm.
plantation. Can I walk it for free? Can I go and like pick some cotton? Girl, I was like the cotton thief in Virginia. When I lived in Virginia, I would go to
Said the
people's cotton
cotton
farms. And I'm like,
thief.
you know what? I think I'm just gonna do a little bit of this cotton right here because I need this ancestral work. I did. And then I would give it to people. I'd be like,
Oh my
I was like, you know
gosh.
what? I picked this cotton in honor of my
Yes.
ancestors from somebody's cotton field. Would you like a piece? I was giving cotton away to the authors that I brought. Um, at any rate,
That's
I
awesome.
believe that we have to do the work. We have to do the work, and I'm still in process. I am still, as they say, God is not finished with me yet. I am
Mm-hmm.
still doing that work as a writer, as an educator, as a leader in my community, as a hearth mother, as a someone who mentors, as a grandmother, as a mom, sister, daughter, cousin. I'm still trying to do that work. Auntie. Oh my gosh, I'm an auntie
Yes.
now. I'm I it, that's such a revelatory. I'm actually going to write an essay about that, the legacy of aunties and the role that aunties play
Come
in my life,
on.
and in my life and in our lives. But I'm
Yeah.
like, it's a real role. It's a
It
real
is.
role,
I mean, people joke about it, but
and you have
aunties
to
really
stand
do
up.
make a huge difference. I mean, I am an auntie, but I think about my aunts who almost they're like second mothers. They're like the second defense of mothers because sometimes what you can't talk to your
Hmm.
mother about, you can talk with your aunts about. And I appreciate that for even the women who, you know, people will say now to me, I guess I'm in my auntie era. And I guess, some of that can be thought of like this is your, your era of wisdom, like you've lived enough life that what you have
Yeah,
to say is
yeah.
thought as, you have something to pass down. When I think of that, cuz even with what was it? Oh, the Black Panther when I can't think of his name, but he was like, "Hey auntie." With Angela Bassett
Oh
and
yes,
Michael B. Jordan, and
yes.
that
That
was
was
like the
like the
joke,
best moment. Yes.
right? You know what I'm saying? And I mean,
Hey
there was
auntie.
so much
It's like, and it was
conversation
true.
even just within those few words.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But
No, I
I say,
mean,
mhm.
literally, aunties, we got the stories. Aunties, we have stories that the parents won't tell you.
Yes,
We've got stories and pictures and things that we didn't. We have things that we didn't know that our nieces and nephews needed. And it's taken
yes,
me a while, a long time to think about it like that because I had been on my own healing journey. And it was
mm-hmm,
like, okay, I need to take care of me. And it was like, oh, but wait a minute, hold up. What about your
mm-hmm.
auntie role?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that's so good. I think
yeah.
one of the things, like even as you're talking, one of the things that I think about now, which kind of goes to, um, oh, I'm trying to, the thought is there, but I want it to come out. Um, okay, so I remember when I went to Ghana in 2018. I think it was 2018, and I remember the
Mm.
first time that I stepped off the airplane, and I touched the ground and I was like, I'm literally on the mother. I'm touching the motherland. Like, these are things that I always thought about one day being able to do, but to say like I've actually done it. And there was something that I can't even express, but it was a sense of connection. It was like a sense of connection to my ancestors. Like there were things that I remember hearing people who had gone, to different parts of Africa before and hearing their experiences and kind of living vicariously through their stories. And the continual
Mm.
theme that I kept
Mm.
hearing was identity. And there was something about every place that we went to in Ghana, from, going into, like Accra, or going to some of the orphanages, or going into the villages, and I remember I got a chance to hold, oh my gosh, this baby, she was gorgeous, black, like black. And I mean, but just beautiful. And I just held this baby, and, and just knowing, like, you had community all around, you had all the elders. And in my mind, I was like, people in Africa are no different than those in Africa in America. Like, African Americans and Africans have so much more in common. And so even when we're talking about resilience, it's like, I think one of the reasons why in 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 schools that don't want to teach diversity, or, diversity, equity, and inclusion, is because they're so afraid of us coming together, and thinking, because of what's happened to us, that somehow we're going to do the same to those who have done harm to us. But yet, to see how I was going into these villages, and these kids had so much joy. Like, I mean, I literally wrote a poem about this little girl. Her name was Precious. And she said, and, her accent, that she wanted to be a doctor. And it was just the way that she said it, and just with such pride. And to this day, I have a friend who lives in Ghana, and he would periodically, have me, talk with her, and she'd still ask about me, but she just followed me around. But the thing that I loved was how these black little kids, they would see us as black adults, and it was just like a sense of, like, I could be that, or I can, like, they wanted to touch our skin, like, oh wow, like, your skin is like mine. And yet I feel like they were giving us a gift more than we were giving them a gift. And that, to me, when I think about identity, is so important with resilience, because so often what we see in the news is not our identity. That's a portrayal of who they want our identity to be. And when we think about why we need to heal, or why we need therapy, or why we need self-care plans, is because all of these things helps us get back to our true identity, which I think where we'll find our purpose. So, I mean, what do you say about that when it comes to, like, your travels, going to different parts of the country, and how that has helped you to identify with your identity and your purpose?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So a couple of things that you said just kind of had me, like, thinking deeply about, the word identity and what creates identity. And first and foremost, yes, it's your parents, but there are also peers, friends, people who surround you, that creates your identity. Yes, culture and food, the food that you eat in holidays, those kinds of things too. But then there's a moment where you have to kind of decide how you want to define yourself. And are you going to define yourself within the parameters of the family continues to define you, or are you going to grow up and grow out of that, right? So this is when you get to create your own identity. You get to say, I'm going to college, now I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to have formative experiences here. For me, it was different because I had my daughter when I was 21. I was, like, at that moment, at that time, I was a Black nationalist, a Pan-Africanist, and studying everything that I was not taught in school about. Literally, I was like consuming texts and Egyptian mysteries, and just like, wow, how come I never learned what the Kabbalah was? And you know what I mean? Like, I never knew about Kaab, and Islam was nowhere near me, and Buddhism, and so it was like all these things I was just consuming. So I was creating a sense of identity based off of these other religions and spiritual practices that felt good to me. And I was like, wow, I was never introduced to this. And then I would go back home to my Reverend Daddy, my Baptist daddy, and I'd be like, Daddy, did you know? Da, 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 da? And he was like, what? What are you talking about? Girl, shut up.
How did that land?
And I was like, but Daddy, you know that the Bible we have right now is like the 10th version of the Bible, the St. James version. He was like, girl, shut up. But he was really amazing. He was like, he was like, look, baby, he said, as long as you believe in something, as long as you believe in God, he said, you're going to be okay. You can study everything you want to study, practice whatever it is you want to practice, as long as you believe in God. And that just opened up like the parachute for me. And I was like, oh, I can land over here in Yoruba. I can land over here in Taoism. I can just check out what people are doing. And one of the things that I realized is when you look deeply into the mysteries of the Bible and the text, the Quran, and the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and all these things, we're all saying the same thing. That like religion is one. And what is interesting is that when we think about language, and one of my mentors, my teacher said, you're only writing one poem. Like this, you're writing from the time you start and the time that you end, but it's really just one poem about whatever it is you're trying to discover about yourself in connection to other people, creating your sense of identity with language, right?
Yeah.
And so like these are the things that I remember, and I'm like, oh, okay. And so yes, travel is now my identity. In fact, I feel like Paris is a second home for me, because I'm like, when I got there in May, and there was this weight just lifted off of me, and I was like, oh, what is that? In the airport, I was like, what is that feeling? And then I was like, oh, it's a lack of tyranny. It's like, it's a lack of tyranny. You in another country. You are James Baldwin in another. You are Nina Simone in another country. And
I'm sorry, it felt different.
All these months, I can, so travel also gives me a different sense of emotional and spiritual and I will say mental connection to other people as well. Again, I always go back to the feeling and the knowledge that I'm not perfect. I don't know everything about every culture, everybody, but I'm curious and I ask questions.
Yeah, which
and I
is
like
important.
to be led, and I like to, which is important. And I like to listen. I'm a ear hustler.
Yeah.
And so I like to ear hustle, because even in French, like je parle français un peu, un petit peu, and I can speak a little French. And so I'm ear hustling, even like in French and English. And I'm like, oh, they said the market opens here so go over to that market here,
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm always like trying to find out what those experiences are for other people. And the other thing that I try to do, I was taught that Black Americans, when we go back to Africa, you've got to take something. So you take your knowledge, you take some medicine, you take some money, whatever it is that we have accrued, you just try to go back and you give something, even if it's a little bit. That you don't have to bring your whole life savings, but you give something. That's what I was taught. And I do that for when I go to like indigenous and Afro-Indigenous communities, no matter where I'm in the world. And I'm like, oh, how can I have this bracelet, or I got these earrings, sis. These would look good on you. These would look really nice on you. Or let me cook. I'm a good cook. Let me help. Do this. And so that creates my sense of identity too. It's this sense of awareness, and that I know the place and the role that I occupy in people's minds when I live in the quote unquote America, in the West. And then it's like, but when they meet me and they see me, they're like, oh, you feel like my cousin. You act like my auntie.
Like we all cousins.
You know what I'm saying? We're cousins. We cousins. I'm like, yeah. I was like, thank you. That's an honor. Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
It really is.
Yeah, I have poems about Africa and traveling in Egypt. I'm working on my second memoir right now, and it's my Black Woman's Eat, Pray, Love. I think I might have mentioned this to you. And so it's travel, spirituality, and relationships.
Ooh,
my two divorces, and then learning how to practice this culture and tradition. Learning Wolof. I was married to a Senegalese guy. That was a whole interesting piece that's in my memoir that you have to read about it. But I'm sure I'll talk about it when it's published. And I'm also working on a collection of essays about mixed raciality and the bi and triracial free people of color who migrated from North Carolina and created communities in migration on the migration trail, North Carolina and Virginia, moving to Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, and finally Michigan, which is where I was born. All the while they're there, creating schools and farming the land and raising churches, like building churches, burying their people in cemeteries. I mean, that's legacy. But I want to pull that all together in a book and create a map. And I want people to be able to say, oh, these are the free people of color who were on that 1854 census in Michigan. Wow, this is rich. And it's like, yes, these are the 50, I said 54 families who were on that 1854 census. And this is what their lives were like. And so that's, that, again, going back to when you say identity, I think that sense of legacy is also my identity right now. It's what do I want to create, and who will I become over the next 80 years? Because I'm not going to die until I'm 120. So the next
I love the
80
number.
years,
Not even 100. You said 120.
I got 120 is my
Let's hope the
number.
planet is still around
120.
if they don't mess it
Uh,
up.
I mean, let's bless on that. Let's bless on that too. So
Yeah.
here's another piece that I learned. When we think about health and medicine and wellness, what I learned in the Ayurvedic tradition, which is an East Indian tradition, is every 7 years, your body regenerates itself. So
Okay.
what you have in all these organs right now, and how skin sheds, this is really funny. Some people are gonna be like, "That's crazy," but like this, well, these organs are not the organs you're going to have 7 years from now. They are going to regenerate themselves, and your skin sheds and it regenerates itself.
True.
So we have a new opportunity every 7 years. Like
That's what that is. That's an
every
interesting
moment
way to look at
we have
that.
a new opportunity. Do you know what I'm saying? We have a
Yeah.
new opportunity to do something differently or to say something differently to somebody. So if people who discriminate and who are prejudiced and who are racists and haters and whatnot, and they don't see that opportunity, that is the worst existence ever in my mind. It's like this this life could be so rich. This
Yeah.
life could be so rich. So I live off of that principle.
I love that. And I love that you said that,
Rejuvenation, resilience.
and I mean that honestly, when I think about how beautiful it is when we can look at life in a way that not only allows us to see that we're not the only ones on this earth, but that there are
Yeah.
others who
Yeah.
may think different. Like, I'm a Christian, and I have conversations with people all the time about faith and religion and things like that. And the thing that I always say, even as a Christian, because someone asked me once, they was like, are you a Christian therapist, are you a therapist who's Christian? And I was like, that's a good question. And I always say,
That's a
I
great question.
and I was like, let me think about that. And I said, well, the best way that I can answer that is I am first and foremost, in terms of before my profession, my identity, as a believer, as a believer of Jesus Christ, my focus and my purpose, the reason why I am a therapist is because of Jesus and because of my love for what he has given me life to do on this earth. And as a result, that is why I share the love of Christ with folks, when I have chances. And, for someone who does not believe like I believe, it's not my job to change you. And it's not my job in a therapy session to change you. My whole agenda in a therapy session is to help you find healing. Now, do I believe that there are ways that you can do that? Yes. But I want you to be authentic to how you can discover that healing. Because at the end of the day, I believe the answers are within us, but a lot of times we are dealing with so much trauma that we can't even see the forest from the trees. And so we need a skilled eye that can listen to our stories, that can give us, the safe space to be able to process, the trauma and all the other things that we're facing, and then help us to come up with the answers that are already within us and we just don't know it. And that's where the empowerment comes from. And so I believe, that Christ has given me that ability and that authority to do so, but also he's also given me the opportunities. Like I've been to, I've got my master's degree in counseling and counseling education with my license in school counseling, and tons of experience,
You go,
working
girl.
with college students and youth and young adults, and of course working in DCS and working in high schools, and working, with elementary students, and working with couples, and working with churches, and just doing so many different things. I was a missionary for 10 plus years. So I've had a lot of experiences in my lifetime, and yet I use all of them to glorify God in all that I do. And I also want people to know that I come with the ability to be able to share, good news in a way that at the end of the day, no matter where you stand, I want you to find healing. And that's my bottom line. That's what I do, and all that I do, and what we do here with Therapy on the Mic. And so I appreciate you, because even just hearing your story, and one of the things that I keep hearing even in your story is the ability to live and to be curious. Like you keep saying that word, which I love. And I think being curious is one of those things that is a gift. And so often we sometimes take for granted as adults the ability to be curious, because we feel like we have to know it all, and that's actually a detriment to our self-care and our mental wellness, because if we don't have any room to learn anything, then we don't really have room to live.
Well said. Here, here.
So
I'm coming to the school of inspired on purpose. Therapy on the here, here.
and I mean, but I
I wish
learned
Nina
something.
Simone would have had a traveling therapist.
You said what?
I wish Nina Simone would have had a therapist traveling with her, like a
Oh,
traveling therapist. You know what I mean? And then
I would have
maybe
loved
she would
to.
have made different choices, and
I would have loved to.
so,
Yeah.
but yeah. So all that to say, we and there's a stigma in the Black community of having therapy. Even now, it's a little less. Like right now, a lot of people are talking about it, but even the sense of your sentiment is, I want you to heal, no matter, at the end of the day, when you come to me, I want you to heal. And then there are still people out there who don't realize that healing is an act. Like
Yes.
you have to show up. You have to ask
Yes.
someone. It's very much like addiction, where there are steps, like the 12 steps, and so
Yes.
you have to admit it. I need to talk to somebody,
Yes.
and I want to talk to someone because I need to heal right here in this way, in this shape or form. So
Yes.
yes, and I'm coming to your school.
No, well, thank you. I
We're
appreciate
related.
it. Well, there's been a couple of people. People have been chatting on here, so I want to give a shout out real quick to Taz, to B, to the
Oh,
speaker
cool.
box, for people who've been, and I've been responding to. So people have been saying yes, facts. I feel that 100%. And then
Oh,
Taz says you've been.
lovely.
She said you've been a blessing to many through work, through your works, words, and skills. Yah will continue to bless the works of your hands, expand your territory, and grant you favor wherever you go. And I appreciate that, Taz. And then she says, I always tell people you can have Yah, God, and a therapist too. Come on. That's what I be telling people. Like I want to give a shout out to my friend
Yes.
Shanevelyn. She literally has a shirt, and I want to get this. It says Jesus plus therapy. And I feel like, at the end of the day, and this is one of the things that I love about, being a Christian, because so often, and this is something too, like, because I remember even when I decided to go to school to become a therapist. And one of the things that I realized was, I remember the counsel that I got, because actually, my story comes from, before I became a therapist, I went to therapy. So, and I went to my very first
Mm,
therapist was a white woman. So there were things, that nuances that I would share that she would want to understand, but she couldn't, because that was
yeah.
not her experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I realized as I got older, and, again, people would always come to me even as a kid and they would just tell me their life story. And I was like, do I have a sign on my head that says, tell me everything? But I realized like that was a part of my
Tell me
calling.
everything. Talk to me.
I realized that was a part of my calling. And so when I actually embraced it and I went back to school, and shout out to my mom because she was like, you need to go to school for this. You've been doing it anyway all your life. You might as well go do it. And I was like, okay. So when I finally went back to school and I decided to do it, I realized that, it representation again, was huge because I mean every time I tell somebody about it, they was like, "Oh my gosh, I've been looking for a black therapist forever. I can't find one." And just all the things that, you realize that in our communities, you know, being, going to church is important, or going to, whatever faith or background that your practice that you have is important, that you have a place where you can find some form of rest or peace. But you also need, again, the skill of a therapist who can help you in a way and give you coping skills. Because that's the other big thing that I say before we get off of here is that coping skills are so important. And oftentimes in different spaces, we are sometimes we catch things more than what we're taught things, but sometimes what we're catching isn't actually healthy. So we may know how to pop off
Yes.
because that's been in our environment. We might know how to tell somebody a thing or two because that's in our environment, but we don't know how to have active listening skills. We don't know how to have deep breathing techniques, when we're feeling anxious or we feel like we on a 10 and we don't know how to come down from that. Or when we're triggered, when there's been microaggressions that we've experienced on our job and we don't know how to, have a healthy conversation with a colleague or someone who's a supervisor, who doesn't know more than we do, but we need to still be professional and have the conversation in a healthy way. These are the things that we have to learn that come through having coping skills and having therapy. But before we go, the one thing I do want to ask, though, somebody says, I always tell people, oh yeah, no, she said this. She said that was your calling and purpose. Y'all God will align us. Yeah, and that's true. He will. And I mean, I have so many more questions for you, so I'll probably end up having you on here again at another time. But how did you know? And how did I'm trying to think. Okay, how did you know? And then two, if you could end with maybe just a smidget of a piece of work that you have, if you have something, or even if you want to sing something.
Ooh. Okay, I'm pulling my Nina Simone book down.
And I love the cover art for that too, by the way.
Nina Simone.
I love it. I
Uh,
love it.
this is an awesome book. So I will. Okay. Something. I'm trying to think of something that's a little, in terms of the book, something that's a little positive. But
Okay.
yes, okay. This is a poem for Lisa Simone. This is her, Nina's daughter, who she says in the documentary, and she says in a couple of different moments that there were times when, as a child, her mother was not kind to her. And so I wanted to write a poem
Mm,
that gives Lisa back to herself, just in
mm,
the hardship that she was experiencing. And so I'll sing a little portion of a song which I learned, like a West African song. It's like a harvest song, and so I wanted Lisa to harvest beauty. And she's an
mm,
amazing person. If anyone is on her Instagram, she's like amazing. Lisa Simone is incredible.
mm,
Um, so let's see, it goes a little bit, and then I'll go into the poem.
mm,
Um, Pusaya, pusaya, babadina, pusaya, pusaya, babadina, pusaya, 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 babadina, pusaya, pusaya, babadina. I want to be light. I want to pass through the hands of priestesses. I want to rise in the morning with no electronics to crank.
mm,
I want to be light in my heart. I want to be light in my love, light. I want my heart to pump sunlight for blood. I want to be pure newborn breath. I want to be wet shafts of light stolen by a thirsty bear. I want to be fireflies, light in a field, light of 100 shields protecting baby girls and little women, light of 1,000 river rocks at dawn, light between the lips of lovers before the first kiss, light of the children who lost their mothers, light, light, light.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And you have such a beautiful voice. I can't think of the name of the poem that you did at the Idle Jorg, but oh, also shout out to Eric Saunders, who is actually hosting that. He emceed that show.
Yes.
And you did something on the spot, and I caught it on
What did he
camera, and
call
I sent it
himself?
to him. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that was like."
I need to have it. I don't have a copy of that. I would
I,
love to put that on my
I'm gonna send it to
Insta.
you. I'm gonna send it to you.
Please.
Yes, I'm gonna send it to you. Yeah, and I mean, like, y'all did not practice or
Oh,
anything.
I
Like
know the
that was just.
poem.
What was it?
Yes, I know the poem. The poem that you're talking about is Return. That's the return. When
Can you
I
do like
said
like a
return
little bite
the
sized piece of that?
oh, do I have that? I'd have to pull it up real quick.
Okay.
I can, yes.
Oh, that was so beautiful,
I
and
have
I
to go
love
find it.
how it was
Hold on
like
one
you
second.
were like you were speaking, but you were singing. That was like, oh my gosh, that was so awesome. So while she's getting that real quick, I'm just kind of putting her on the spot. So but I hope you all enjoyed this. We still grooving. We still gonna rock here in a second. And I was gonna say too, if you have a question for Shonda, so thank y'all who have joined the live. Thank you, Taz. Thank you, B. Thank you, the speaker box, and others that I've gotten messages from. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you have a question for her before we go, because we are definitely vibing, and I appreciate her just giving her time to share the work that she's doing. And I'm gonna ask her in a second how people can support the work that you do. So, but I'm ready when you are.
Okay. Return the white breath to its black body.
Mm,
Return the bullet to its gun. Return the gun to its holster. Return the hand to its side. Return the officer to his car. Return the car to the garage. Return. Return. Return the key to its pocket. Return the pants to the floor. Return the scalding coffee to its pot. Return the hot dawn to the night. Return the sound of lovemaking to the room. Return. Return. Return the child's lips to the father's cheek. Return the arrest warrant to the computer. Return the counterfeit $20 bill to its pocket. Return the knee to its straight position. Return the officer's body to the car. Return the car to the garage. Return the gas to the pump. Return the scars to the eye. Return. Return. So that's a poem that, like, the entire poem is incidents of when black bodies have been harmed, and references to George Floyd and Sandra Bland and I mean Eric Garner and just so many people who have suffered that kind of violence, that police violence, and just, again, come back to the harming of black bodies, and I wanted to write that poem to give them back a sense, like to get like the moment of, if this wouldn't have happened, then this could have happened. But then also, since you are our ancestors, at the end of this, I'm saying, return the tears to their eyes, return the jewels to their hair, return the whisk to their hands. So I'm taking them back to Africa. Return, return. And so I want us all to have that sense of the place that we were the most whole, which is ancestral land, ancestral ground. And so I wanted to dig deep into that work. So thank you for asking me to read that poem.
Every day, I'm just getting chills again just thinking about that. It just, man, it's beautiful, beautifully, beautifully said. How, I mean, I'm kind of speechless right now, but how can people like get your writings and support the work that you do?
Mm, yeah. So Amazon. All my books are on Amazon. Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. I'm putting a lot of my talks, readings on Instagram. Ask me to come and be a guest speaker at your university
Mm-hmm.
or at a bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
Ask bookstores to order my books. um,
Yes.
I mean, that's really a way to support any author,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is to say, hey, do you have such and such a. Sometimes in the beginning, I would call Barnes and Noble and be like, do you have 5 copies of Black Indian? Because I'm about to come get that. And if you don't, let me know when you have it. So, yeah,
I
so
love it.
I'm gonna have to do that with because this one just came out in May, and I know my publisher is sending. Whenever I read someplace, they will reach out to the distribution house, and
Mm.
they'll say, yeah, we're gonna get 20 or 30 copies of it. But sometimes if you're not reading there, they won't order your book until someone asks for it. So that's a way to
Oh,
support me and all authors. So thank you for asking. And then
yes.
my newsletter. If you go to my website, scroll down with my newsletter. You can follow me on my newsletter, and then I'm posting inspirational, my travel stories, inspirations about just kind of thoughts that I'm having, with regards to the regime and what's happening now. So my newsletter is another way to support me. And I'm on Gmail too. So if anyone is interested, Shonda Buchanan at
Okay.
gmail.com.
And then what's your, because I'm going to put it in the chat real quick so they know how to get to your website. What's your website?
My first and last name, www.shonda, Shonda,
Mm-hmm.
Buchanan, Buchanan.com. Yeah.
Bet. So,
Thank you for having me on your
mm-hmm.
show. This has been lovely. I feel like
Yes.
I said some things really clearly, and so I'm grateful that if hopefully I was able to do that. And thank you to my ancestors who
Mm-hmm.
allowed me to speak. So
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I put your link there. Make sure that you all support Shonda. We will be doing some work. We've already been talking about, how we can make some kind of collaboration happen. If not before this year, Lord willing, definitely next year for sure. So, but yeah, definitely thank you again so much.
Kenya,
So,
Kenya 2026.
yes, 2026, because I promise this year is almost over, literally.
Ghana.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. But yeah, so but again, thank you so much. I'm just gonna rock out here. So you can stay if you want,
Okay.
but I just want to do some little closing things with everybody that's on here. So thank you again so much, Shonda. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, well, y'all, it has been such an amazing time. Thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to close with a couple of just last minute thoughts as we finish our time. Thank you again to Shonda Buchanan for coming on and sharing so much wisdom and of course her artistry as well, and seeing that as a form of resilience and resistance as we talked about today. And hopefully as we, as you got a chance to think about what are your tools of resistance or resilience, I want to go back to some of the first parts of the questions that I asked at the very beginning, just for you to be thinking about. But that being, that being this, oh, okay. But that being this, so if you want to share your answers in the chat, you can do that. But again, the questions were, what currently supports your well being? And the second question is, what's one tool you wish you had? So we talked about having a self care plan. We talked about exercise, nutrition, having a healthy routine, clear communication skills, working through trauma and identifying your triggers. These are some of the different skills or tools that can help you to build resilience. Also, having gratitude. Again, you can also purchase my book, Gratitude is Always in Season, which is a self care journal that is all about developing gratitude, growth, and healing. in any season that you're in. And you can, get that on my website, www.inspiredonpurposeservices.com, and click on the tab shop, and you can get it there. You can also go on Amazon as well. But the proceeds go, of course, directly to me. If you go from my website, it's a little bit cheaper, but but you can also do that there. Shonda, oh, okay. And Shonda says, I've written 3 books of poetry, my one memoir, Black Indian, and 2 edited anthologies. And you can find her, which is at Shonda Buchanan. And you can find her on all social media platforms from there. And so thank you again, Shonda, so very much. We will definitely be talking again. But again, the mantra moment that I want to reiterate is I draw strength from support and self-care. And so what does that mean? It's about social connection, helps regulate stress hormones, and routines protect mental health. So I really just want to encourage you all to think about what are the things that you can do to not only create routines that develop self-care, but also what are the things that you are doing to build a healthier way of looking at mental health and wellness, and what are the things that you can do to start that today, because it is a part of our everyday ability that helps us to do the work that we do. And so if we're not taking care of ourselves, self-care, if we're not taking care of ourselves, then we can't care for the things that we do every day, whether if it's our jobs, our families, our finances, our health, or even our hobbies or dreams, should I say that too. So I think that that's also important. So a couple of action steps. What are ways that you can grow? Definitely, I would say list 3 support sources or 3 nourishing routines that you enjoy. So that's the first action step. The next is identify the gaps. Note what routines feel sustaining or empty and plan one new positive habit. Start today. Good way to start a healthy routine. Another way to grow, schedule a weekly call or walk, practice daily breathing exercises, and track your feelings, which is something that you can do in my book, Gratitude is Always in Season, because it has a built-in self-care mini journal in the back with resources that you can utilize to help you start this journey. And then definitely, like I said, if you are interested in therapy sessions, or you've considered or you heard something tonight that you thought, yeah, I think I need to reach out for a therapy session, you can definitely do that with me. You can go to my website, www.inspiredonpurposeservices.com, click on contact us, and there is a therapy referral form. If you fill that out, I will be contacting you within 24 to 48 hours. Also, I always say, just take one step further. Send me an email to let me know that you filled it out. So just in case if I don't see it in time, I'm not avoiding or anything like that. Sometimes, people go in there and then I may not see it for a few days. But if you want to get an immediate response, definitely shoot me an email at inspiredonpurpose@gmail. So that's INSPIRED on purpose@gmail.com, and I will make sure to check that out and get in touch with you. Also, what's up, James? Shout out to James. Thank you so much, y'all, for coming on here tonight. I hope that you experienced something that not only inspired you with purpose, that you also got some therapy from this, because this, in essence, is free therapy. And like I said, I'm always giving tips and, of course, the wisdom that comes from my guest. Something on here tonight, I hope, inspired you and helps you to think of something that you can take away tonight and actually start applying today. And so that's always my heart's goal for everyone that listens. And then definitely, if you have not already, or if you're considering it, because we've talked a lot about nutrition. So if you're listening to me and you're like, dang, you sound congested, I am actually detoxing, which is a good thing. I think because of the weather changing, and then also too, like, the stuff that I'm detoxing, because I'm taking these drinks, and a lot of this comes from the group that I'm in, which is the Building with Purpose Mind, Body, and Soul 6 week challenge. It is so good. I've got so much energy, and I have a routine and all these different things that, from the mental health standpoint, because I'm teaching everyone in the group about mental health and wellness and self care. And then the nutritionist, who is a certified holistic nutritionist, Nicole Garrett, she is focusing on the nutrition and also your gut health. So, not just about weight loss, because some people aren't necessarily trying to lose weight, but your gut, if your gut is unhealthy, that's where all the disease is, and even the mood swings. And if you're dealing with premenopause or menopause, like all of those things are impacted by your health, by your gut health. And then, of course, even some of the thoughts that we have, all of those things are connected to our gut health, because foods can actually make us feel a certain kind of way. They can make us feel off, they can make us feel angry, they can make us feel calm. And so Nicole does a really great job in the program in telling you what foods can do, how they can help or hinder your progress, even giving you like mental clarity, because sometimes the foods that we're having creates brain fog. And so we're not eating certain things during this program, which I've really noticed a difference in how I'm even thinking, because of the things that I'm not allowing to enter my body. So I think those are things that, if you're interested in any of that, I would definitely encourage you to be a part of the Building with Purpose Mind, Body, and Soul 6 week challenge. And you can get more information about that as well on my website. You can also go on my YouTube channel, Inspired on Purpose. If you haven't, make sure that you subscribe. So I'm trying to do a better job of telling people, like, if you haven't subscribed, and then if you're listening to this, like, send this to like 3 to 5 people and send it to them and tell them to subscribe, because all the help and support allows more opportunities and content like this to go out to more people, to help them to find gratitude, growth, and healing, because we need that. We need that more than ever, in all communities, especially in today's situations that we're dealing with. So you can do that. But I'm good. I'm going to be taking some Herbal Intellect tea. So shout out to our sponsor, Paul Harris of Herbal Intellect. Thank you so much for your continued support as a sponsor, but also for the products that you give that are so healthy and so good. And y'all won't be hearing all this congestion here pretty soon, as soon as I take this tea tonight. So thank you for that. But yeah, so last thing. Oh, and then also I forgot to mention, I want to give a shout out to Leo's Alkaline Water, who is also one of our other sponsors. Uh, Leo's Alkaline Water, it's Law. If you have not tried his water, it is so good. We have it in our home. It is amazing. And Leo does a lot of other things that you can learn about. But you want to check him out if you want to learn more about Leo's Alkaline Water. In his products, he will have water in your home. If you have like those, big container water jug things with a dispenser, that's what we have. And it's really good. But yeah, so if anything, I just want to again encourage you tonight as we wrap up, identify a support person or community of people who will support you on your journey of having resilience and self-care. Try one new self-care habit. So I mentioned a few. So whether if it's exercising, being a part, getting a therapy session, doing the wellness appointment where I can help you develop your personalized self-care plan so you can know what are some of those self-care habits that you can develop. Share or even journal. That's another self-care habit. Share a gratitude moment that you can actually share with someone. You never know how what you're grateful for will inspire somebody else to share what they're grateful for. And then, like I said, just keep growing, keep growing, keep growing, keep growing until we are under the ground. We should always be in a position to learn and to grow. So make sure that you have mentors, no matter how old you are. Somebody in your life should be pouring into you. And as sure as someone's pouring into you, you need to pour into somebody else. So make sure that you make time for others, and not just for the things that you're doing, and share that wisdom. Even your failures can be wisdom to help somebody else not make the same mistakes that you did. And that's where we heal, when we share our mistakes, not out of shame, but out of a space where we feel that we can finally say, I've learned my lesson in these areas, and now I want to help somebody else to make better decisions because of the lessons that I've learned. And that's how we grow. That's how we grow. So again, I want to thank you all so much for joining Therapy on the Mic. Give a shout out again to all those who joined tonight. As y'all can see, we haven't been having these hiccups with uh with everything. I do want to give a shout out to we got a new internet service. So I'm not a fan of Xfinity anymore. So I said it. They were horrible. But like I said, grateful for growth. But C says, she says, the mind, body, and soul, building with purpose, with Patrice and Nicole is awesome. Oh, Charlene, thank you. So shout out to Charlene. She's in the Mind, Body, and Soul Challenge, and thank you for even just sharing that. One of our participants, for being a part, and also just getting on here and just sharing her own testimony and story of how it's been a benefit to her. So again, yeah, if you know somebody that wants to get in this challenge, we want to encourage. We're doing a free informational for the for the Building with Purpose Mind, Body, and Soul 6-week challenge, Wednesday, August 27th. So that's next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. It is going to be on Zoom. So if you want information, let me go in here and let me add so that y'all can see the link, because I need to put it in here so then that way y'all could y'all can go ahead and share, because that's sharing is caring, as they said, right? So yeah, so I definitely want to, there we go. So yeah, so share away, y'all, because I'm sure when we're all healthier, we're happier. And who doesn't want a happy person? Who doesn't want to see a happy person? So here's the link. This is the Building with Purpose 6-week challenge info form. There you go. Bam. So it's in there. So if y'all are interested, go ahead and fill out that form or share it with somebody that would be interested in it. And it will have all the information that you need in there. So yeah. So again, thank you all for coming on. I'm going to try something new because I'm kind of taking over this last little section. So let me see if y'all can hear this. Let me see if y'all can hear this. Can y'all hear that? If y'all can hear that in the chat, I just want to know. Like, if you can hear that, just put something in the chat. Say, yes, I can hear it. No, I can't. Because I need to know. Can y'all hear that? I hope y'all can. Can somebody tell me in the chat if you can hear that? I'm learning new things every day. Yes, I can hear it. Hey, okay, so this is what we're gonna rock out to. So again, thank y'all so much. Yeah, I'm glad you like it. But again, thank y'all so much for coming on here. So appreciative. I'm learning something new every day. Y'all truly give me therapy. Just coming on here. So I love it. Thank you, B. Thank you, C. Thank you, Taz. Thank y'all. I love it. Thank y'all. This is community. And y'all continue to bring people on here, because I'm telling you, the more folks that we have on here, the better, y'all. The better. So thank y'all. All right. So we're going to get out of here. Let this ride real quick. I'm going to have some more music for y'all. But I like this song. Hey. I'm a freestyle real quick, so don't make fun of me. Okay, here we go. I wanna Shonda Buchanan for coming on the station. It's been a really dope day. I thank everybody for saying a few things. And I want to say thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to do what I do from above. It ain't nothing but him that gives me the beat of anyway. So y'all, that's it. We done. I love y'all. Peace. Until the next time, continue to be inspired on purpose. Bye, y'all.